And look at that, we're live. How did that happen? Looks like the stream's healthy. Welcome. It's the 10,000 subscriber live special, whether you're watching this live or in person. Hello. Thank you. I'm joined by my co-pilot, Baldy. He's actually going to be hosting pretty much the entire thing. We've got Oblivion on the back burner. We're going to bring that up in a little bit. But this is also the Patreon Q&A. So Patreon producers who had questions for this month, you get first priority, and Baldy has them. Also, Baldy, hi.
Howdy, how's it going today?
Good, man. I'm taking a look
Very
at the bit
good.
rates and making sure that things are doing all right. I want to make sure that um, I don't know what the heck YouTube's complaining about. As long as you can hear me in the stream. How can you hear me in the stream?
Let's check.
Yeah, that you should be able to do that. It should be all right. Yeah.
Yep, it's coming through.
Good. It's just the audio stream's current bit rate. That's because I didn't have any audio coming through. I should just have hold music while I'm doing that. So
There you go.
anyway, it's Saturday noon now, or at least it is here.
Right?
So Baldy, tip it off. What we got? What's going on?
Well, we're first and foremost, congratulations, 10,000 subs. How you feeling about that?
It feels weird because a year ago, Baldy, and it was a year ago that we sat here and we did the
Right?
same thing. It was 5,000, and now we're at 10,000, and it's like it's a bigger number. I said that adding digits are the milestones that I'm really interested in,
Right.
because like in a YouTuber's life, it's like 10 and then like maybe 100, but it's really 1,000. Like 1,000 is
Yeah.
that first one because that's when you get monetized. But then every kind of after that, it's just the YouTube awards, and everything else is kind of
So was that
arbitrary.
1,000 the first one you really remember? That was your first big milestone, or do you remember like 500 or what?
Do I remember if No, it went so fast because it like with Deus Ex, it hopped from like 388 to 700 or something within the span of not a long period of time. But
Yeah.
the thousand, because I was under the impression that as soon as you hit 1,000, the algorithm was going to give you like a billion impressions, and it was just going to be this spiral up
Yeah.
into success.
You
Uh,
would just, yeah, it was just everything was handed to you then, right? Like it just,
right,
you,
and
you
not
cracked your
so.
way in.
Right,
Ah,
and some people have even said, "Oh, as soon as you hit 10,000, you'll get that," and it's like, not so much. Right now we're at like 10,330, I think. This just happened Tuesday morning. It happened ahead of schedule. 10,327, which
yeah.
awesome. If you're subscribed, thank you, much appreciated. Uh, but to grow this fast, and because it all kind of started in September, or I'm sorry, February, it kicked off from like 7,000, and just kind of it's been blown up. So just in the past almost 3 months, it's been a
Yeah.
1,000 subscribers a month. So that's been pretty nuts.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
seems like it's been one of the neat things. And of course, following you through all the social medias we see on the prompt down there at the bottom, joining you on Producers Lounge inside Discord, we've been able to kind of jump along for part of the ride for this.
Yeah, exactly. And some of these graphics are 2 years old. And I was talking about that when we hit the 5,000 last year.
Yeah.
It's like these
Yeah.
graphics are old. I'd love to update them, and then I never do.
No,
Uh,
no, no. It'll just be that thing. In the future, everybody will have flashy changing graphics and you'll have a bouncing buzzy bee and purple int in the back.
I know. Yeah, someday dreams. I'm gonna bring up the game, but let's keep going.
Go
Uh,
for it.
I have not played this. So on the last stream where everyone helped me pay rent, thank you again, by the way. Uh, we we were playing Morrowind, and we were talking about Oblivion. But I have not played Oblivion in a long time. Is that
Did you
audio?
play these when they launched? Or have you been an old school fan of the Elder Scrolls series?
No. Morrowind was my first one, and that's the one.
Hmm.
Morrowind, Halo, and like a couple of others.
Yeah.
Those were my launch games.
Okay.
That's the Emperor Uriel Septim. He's voiced by Patrick Stewart, and so we're
Oh.
gonna hear that as we go along.
Sir Patrick Stewart.
Sir Patrick Stewart. I think this might have been before he was knighted.
Probably.
So he was just regular Patrick Stewart, like the Star Brand, Captain Picard.
Right. Original flavor. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, Morrowind was my first. That sold me an original Xbox. And then this was, to their credit, this was not a launch game for the 360. They scheduled it for the following summer, the summer of 2006. And I bought the special edition. It had the coin in it, like it was an actual metal coin. Which
Oh, wow.
I had for a long time, and I don't know where it is anymore. It had a map in it. I think it was just a regular map. It wasn't a cloth map, nothing special.
Yeah. So how did you pick this one for today? What makes this worthy of a 10,000 sub stream?
So it seemed like logically a good way to carry on from the last stream. This is technically the Green Room stream, like number 29, I think.
Okay.
And this is something where I don't need to have like constant attention on.
Okay.
And hey, sure. And I haven't played it in 16, 17 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is there are parts that I may, especially coming off Morrowind, playing that recently, are there things I'm going to be more or less forgiving of?
Yeah.
That I don't know, because they made some key design changes in this that made me like this game less than Morrowind.
Really?
Yeah. So, you didn't play this one, did you?
I started this one time, and one guy that I was friends with on live had tried to explain the level up process. This is where you have to sleep, right, to level?
In both
I think the right one?
games you do.
Not Skyrim, but
Skyrim.
yeah.
No, but
okay. So, and he was like explaining. He said, "Well, there's two schools of thoughts. One is you never level up, so your enemies are all viable, and the one is that you level up, and they're always going to do whatever." And I just couldn't get into it. And then Skyrim launched, and so I was like, "Okay, I'll just grab this new Skyrim," and I took it from there.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan of these, but I'm curious as to how, since you've played this before. And this was going to be one of my questions in general anyway, is when you're starting this game today, right? Like, walk us through your character creation process. What types of characters do you like to play in what I'll just broadly call these open world RPGs? Like, how do you go about picking stats and your character ability?
Well, we can actually do that, right?
Right. This is going to work out well.
Yeah. I like the thief characters, which is interesting because I reviewed 4 thief games.
I was born 80 years ago. For 65 years, I've ruled as Tamriel's emperor.
You might be getting a lag on that.
All these years,
Light, well, here and there, but it's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I like thieves. I like jumping around, and I think that's something I just discovered with Morrowind. Is I bump up my acrobatic skill.
Okay.
And I'd be able to strip down to nothing, and I'd be able to hop between buildings like I'm on the moon. And
wow.
That's pretty nuts.
See, I like that. I like that a lot because that's how I would play the game. Is what will the game let me do?
Yeah, exactly. And then, I mean, a game like this. I mean, you remember Morrowind just a few weeks ago. You could not see the stuff in the background. It was entirely fogged out. So coming into here and seeing this whole world was like, wow. So being a cat, and I theoretically bouncing around a giant world like this was pretty nuts.
Yeah.
But here they also segmented the city sections from the world, so it made that weird. Whereas in Morrowind, the towns were just there, but they weren't as big.
Yeah.
And
on this one here, is there a variety in the character classes? Does it really help out, or is it just kind of aesthetics?
Potentially, yeah. Actually, because I know since they're all kind of the base, they're the base stats, and then you have your, whatever deity you pray to. If I've never been a big combat fan, so I'm sure you could get really hardcore about it. See, all right.
I remember, like in Skyrim, I looked at a few different things and tried to figure out, okay, you got the cat race and you got the reptile and you got all these other ones, and so like here, Imperial and the other options. You never really know, is it going to turn out to be a big impact on the game, or is it just kind of for fun?
I think it's more in just how you want to play. I've never been the biggest fan of those infinitely detailed, granular character creators, where you can spend all your time like adjusting chin heights and weird stuff like that, because you never see your character.
Right.
So why bother? But there are definitely stats in here where it's like, that does make more sense.
So what are you gonna go for your first time through a game like this? Are you an elf? Do you ever take an orc right away? No. Me personally is always ranged attack and stealth the first time. That's just how I'm wired.
I never got, even World of Warcraft, like I never got into like the horde stuff.
Okay.
I was always an alliance guy. So I just just naturally repulsed by the idea of playing as an orc or an evil character or whatever.
I cannot be evil in a game. It takes me 2 or 3 playthroughs, and even then, the first maybe hour, I'm like, okay, I've got to beat up this guy because I'm evil now. It just doesn't work.
I kicked off Knights of the Republic, and I'm already running into some of those choices where it's like, all right, this is the part where you are an empathic human, and this other choice is the one where you're a complete jerk, and you have to go wash your hands afterwards because you just feel so genuinely awful about what you did. That's a bummer. I didn't understand the age part of this game.
Right.
To me, I put this on an SD TV originally, so everything looks really weird and washed out, and there's so much bloom in the game too. Oh, I need a name.
So like the Khajiit, which is how I say it, and who knows, was cool because in Skyrim they had night vision enabled from the beginning, which to me is an amazing thing. Like that's what I like. It is or it isn't. I don't care so much for play this one and you'll get something else in here. But real quick, Bolty is saying in the stream, Nick is very quiet and Baldy is loudish.
Let me go and adjust that.
Could just be, in general, you're louder than I am, though, so who knows?
Well, that's just true. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not quiet, but...
That's... Bum. Yep. Let me go into the advanced things in here. Let's... that's the Elgato audio... I'm just using an accent. I don't know why. Let's bring me up a decibel. All right, let's try that. How's
all right, Bolty? Bolty, give us a reading here.
Yeah, give us a reading here, Bolty.
How
are we doing while we chat?
Bolty, one of our long-term supporters and super valid member here.
And assistant producer, too.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, thank you, of course.
Artist extraordinaire.
Illustrator.
Individual of many talent.
Folk music lover. You can hear me better?
Says I hear you better.
Yeah.
All right, hopefully that's good. We'll go a minute here, and if it's still...
Yeah, I'll bring myself up next. Baldy is still slightly louder, but you are much more even. All right, I'll bring it down.
Okay. Oh, for a second I read that as like Baldy's even more loud now. But okay.
We'll bring it. I don't remember where you were at there, but I will bring myself up a decibel as well. Let's do. That's why I'm glad I have the second monitor. I don't know how you do this with just one. Like Orzine would friggin' do all this with one monitor, and he wouldn't see the chat, or anything like that. It's like, I don't know how you do it, man. Of course, since he's gotten his widescreen monitor, he hasn't really been streaming, so it's like, ah. Okay, I think we're gonna go with the headband. Yeah, let's do the headband.
Like it?
Yeah, length. That long.
That was
Got
the
it.
other thing is for me, long hair. Every single time.
Heck yeah.
I'm living vicariously. I normally pick. So here's a question for you. Did you then versus now or ever have a preference on gender for your creative character?
No, I kind of just always kind of split the difference. Um,
So I always go girl. I don't really know why. It started with some of the like in any of the online games back in the day when you would play with other people, it would be a room full of token Rambo looking guys. So I always picked the girliest, craziest looking thing I could, and it kind of just carried over.
right. I think that makes sense. I mean, if that's the character you're going to be looking at, like, what do you want them to look like? Do you want them to be the square-jawed, hero here? See, this is why you upgraded to a 360, is you could get the physics.
Oh, is that the difference? Like, yeah, it was static in the first game.
Yeah, and
Okay.
you didn't have this kind of detail anyway. Yeah, there was this. It looked better. The lighting, like, look how much this. I mean,
That's
you
great,
watched
even-
Morrowind the other week, and like it was
Yeah.
very plain looking. Like graphics got
was.
really good, really fast during this time, and this was a game where it was like, oh my god, take the. It's just gonna be 4 hours of freaking this. Just gonna-
MX Love in the chat saying, been watching for quite a while here. Can't believe you only have 10,000 subs.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we were talking about this in the Discord about because obviously I was arguing with people on the internet about. That's right. There's about the people who pop off in subscribers like really early on, and the people who spend a long time grinding it out. And then you get the people who are just like nasty, like they'll come up with any reason to knock your channel just because it's not big. So like your thumbnails are trash, your titles are garbage, your videos are too long or something like that, and it's like you're just saying that because I don't have enough subscribers, and as you know, Baldy, I've been sitting here tweaking my thumbnails and titles and stuff left and right forever to an extent that even I think is annoying, but if it's what gets eyes on.
Yeah, because I remember you were updating us on finding the jewel, finding the fonts, finding the locale of the picture.
Right.
And we get input from several other really neat creators. We got the Summer of Mark and Medium and some other guys in there that everybody gets to kind of swap their expertise together on your Discord, and everybody doing what they can to get those hits.
In the creator corner, absolutely. And it's good to have everyone around.
That's been really neat. I mean, I'm learning tricks, and I am the lower end of just puttering with this at times, but it's really neat to get insight from y'all and watch y'all kind of, my favorite is when somebody will throw up two title cards and say, which one is better? And everybody kind of gets to chime in, and you get to see a little window into the mind on how they
operate.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's good to like have that just community. Because last year at this time we were talking. Hi, puppy. Last year at this time, we were talking about starting up those creator corner interviews.
Yeah.
And I wish we'd been able to do more, but it is like it was on a new channel that I created, and then they were, they're small creators, and it's hard to get algorithmic attention to small creators when you're already a small creator. Because even back then,
putting in a lot of time on that too, and that kind of stretched you out, right?
It did. Yeah. That wasn't the greatest. So we had a couple of those, and unfortunately there were just two more that I didn't quite get into the thing. So But the
Yeah.
idea of building out a community and using what resources you have to highlight other creators, like that's a big deal. That's a big deal to me. And being able to bring people on, as I can.
Yeah.
And I was actually, before the stream started, I was gonna be like, hey, if you're a Patreon producer, hop in the barbecue. But then I realized that would probably shift your box around, and then it'd be like, no,
Yeah.
that wouldn't be the greatest. This still has the grid paper dungeons, so very boxy layouts in that still, even though they're obviously dramatically more detailed than they were in
Yeah,
Morrowind.
and that was always odd to me. Some of those, even now on some games, feel like, well, we can't have this too small. Let's just like, what would be the function of all those rooms right there? Like, you're walking left and right, and there's a hallway that's just a few feet of empty space. It's almost like they're making it big just to have it big.
Right, it's like designed for the sake. It's design, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are definitely parts where, like, this couldn't have been a real place. Yeah, I mean, maybe the executioner is standing up here. Where's my jump? Do I have a jump? I don't know if I have a jump. Do I have? Oh yeah, I definitely have a jump. And it's on my Y button and not my trigger. So, and I'm also playing with a standard Xbox Series controller. X button. Pull the right trigger. Okay. And so I'm not. Oh yeah, there we go. Get those Khajiit arms in there. Oh heck yeah. I'm gonna. Yeah, playing this on an SD TV was not the greatest.
Which is funny because back in the day, it was for forever until I got anything better than that. And when it kind of first popped up afterward, you're like, "Oh, this is what all y'all have been seeing." I've still got my TV with still kind of bows out a little bit, and it's maybe darker at the edges than in the middle, and you're just like, "Okay, whatever."
Yeah, no, that's real. And then you have there was that big controversy around Dead Rising early on about the UI. It was really, really small on SD TVs, and I remember that.
I was trying to remember which one it was, and you're right, it's Dead Rising, and like you couldn't read some of the little odds and ends.
It was you had to get like really close, and all right, I'm gonna find a key now. Oh, Mythic Dawn. Yeah, those jerks. I remember them. Oh, I can crawl through here. Yeah, like they didn't have very good certification around resolutions, and that was the beginning of the HD era. Like a lot of people didn't have HD, but this was the HD era of consoles.
Yeah.
So it was a big. I didn't get my first HD TV until 2011. So I was playing on my 360 on a tube TV up until then. Maybe you can find some key nearby. Everyone needs a freaking key. And this is not quite as glorious as the intro to Oblivion. Or Skyrim, I should say. Because that was obviously a big...
Did that become a bit of a trope or cliche for this group at least? Like almost every game was starting you out in a dungeon or something. You had the long winding escape or something like that.
You were always a prisoner.
Yeah.
Oh, that was easy lockpick game. And then yeah, you just I think that really just set up the idea that you're gonna achieve great things, kid. No. There we go. I think Fallout had a better lockpicking game.
Yeah, I could never like that one right there. I get what you're doing, but
yeah, all I'm doing is just pushing up the pin, and then it just like you that's when you apply the
a while back I had saw a guy doing a video thing, and he was against the mini games for activities like that and hacking and other stuff.
Really?
And yeah, and he had a good take on it. It wasn't just no, they're dumb. but I forget how it was. And then in what is Generation Zero, a game I'm playing right now,
By
if you have the
Avalanche.
lock picking skill, it's just you do it. You walk up and you hit X and the lock
Oh,
picks.
that's
So
that's like an
I'm back and
MMO.
forth because I do kind of, I would honestly, I think rather it just have a time meter to where like if it's a beginner lock or you're easy at it, it takes long or you know what I mean? Something to where you just hold the button down, but you will get it
Mm-hmm.
versus having to mini game it. I don't really know. Do you have a take on it?
I like mini games.
You
I
like the mini
I
games?
like good mini games. I guess I like. Okay, what is this dude?
MX Love in the chat saying Oblivion lot picking looks pretty at least, and it does. That's a really cool looking take on
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Uh, it's just not very functional. I mean, it depends on what you got, right? Um, the I think the best lock picking minigame in a game is the one in Thief Deadly Shadows, and that was the third game into that series. And I think there's some technical stuff you have to accomplish and stuff like that. I think a really good minigame enhances it, and I think a bad one detracts. And I can understand not being for them at all.
Yeah.
I think when you remove them entirely, like the example with Generation Zero there, like I think it gets a little too abstract, and then it starts to feel like an MMO where you're like standing within vicinity of something, and you're just pressing a button, and it's just rolling a dice over and over automatically until something happens. Um, I can see how that could be cool, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Especially for something like this where, I mean, it gives weight. It
Yeah.
gives weight to what you like. You're really getting into that chest there. It's not just
Yeah.
click, roll the dice, roll dice, roll dice, roll dice, roll dice, or
Okay, so
whatever.
that's a good one. Is I do hate the dice rolls. I have never liked the. Spent 3 rounds of leveling up, and now I have a 75% chance. It's like no, I don't want to risk it. I need to know. You know.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know. That's how it
I
gets
mean,
to me.
they have their place, but I mean, you remember the combat from Morrowind was you're slashing, 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 slashing,
Yeah.
and those were all dice rolls. But here,
Yes.
there's an actual like physical component to it, and
Right.
physics. Take
So
that,
the chat
rat.
now adding a little bit of it. We got Dodger in here saying that if you know what you're doing, you can open any lock the first time, which I think would work well, right? Like if one of them was patient enough and knew the mini game. But
Right.
that kind of brings up my idea of player knowledge versus character knowledge, right? Like would my
Sure.
character know? I don't know. I like those kind of role picking ones. And then MX Love saying I was watching the Thief video that lock picking looked immersive. So
Yeah.
I think we're both agreeing the immersive is always where it's at.
Right. And I think, I mean, they're like design wise, you have those are this kind of decisions you just have to like. You may go in. There are so many rats in here. This is kind of absurd. Grim, why? Where's the Grimbeard video on this? And these are emaciated. Like, look at those ribs. Um, but those are
Let him eat
design
a little bit of your
decisions.
flesh, man. Come on, be compassionate.
Seriously. Um, but those are the decisions that designers have to make. Like, they may go in with one opinion, and then as soon as it meets reality of people playing the game, it's like, well, that's
Oh,
not good. That's a lot less fun than I thought. I mean, if you know how to play a lock picking game right off the bat,
yeah.
I think Fallout actually does kind of the same. Like if you just know how to feel out the controls, I think maybe even Thief does too, huh? But if you may have to, depending on the mechanics, right? Why do you even have skill checks or skills at all in
Right.
that kind of setting? It's to encourage you to dump points into this skill
Yeah.
versus like if I'm jumping around a lot and I get naturally higher, that's because my character's built muscles. But I theoretically you could in a game like this just build a sense as a character of how to feel out locks like you would in the real world,
Right. Right.
which is something you have to do when you're
So
picking
one of the
locks.
things I've always wanted to see in a game was that you would learn a language. And so at level 0 or just starting out, it would literally be scribbles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you would pick up a text or on the wall. And then as you level, big words would appear, such as yes and no and don't or something, like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time you're done, you can literally read the whole thing. So if you and I were approaching and I might go, hey Nick, this is in Khajiit. I don't know. And you go, oh, my character has that. And then you could walk over and look and go, oh yeah, it's telling us don't go down the right hallway or something.
Right.
I think
Right.
those kind of things would be fun, but that's not a game you would check anyway in the sense of a mini game. It's just what it is. So
Right. And there are mechanical things around that too, because I want to say there was a game called Tabula Rasa, right? It was an MMO. It was by Richard Garriott, and it was next NCSoft published it.
mm-hmm.
But it was, you were on this alien world or something. I think you were colonists, and there were glyphs everywhere. And you actually, if I recall correctly, you did learn the language as you went.
Okay.
And so you would uncover like different glyphs would turn into words as you played, so that you could understand more and more, kind of like what you were describing. And I think it was granular enough that it didn't feel mechanical, because you'd have people who would just sit there at a terminal, the language learning terminal, and just camp out for hours, to boost their skills, to game the system, so that they could do this one quest that they need to get the one particular item that only this quest allows.
Right.
But that's more like, I don't know, it's more role-playing game. Like, you don't want it to become a cheap thing. You want it to be a fun thing, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I really dig into that when I can, of role playing, and if for nothing else, it's a way to kind of go. Like I'm playing Alien Fireteam, and it's been real nice to see how it goes with my guy can do this thing, your guy can do that thing. So why don't you go first for this room, and then I'll do this. Like where you can literally take different roles. I think that to me is what I've always found the most engaging.
Or you can specialize.
Right. And some games like raids, which you can do those, and I know that you're going to go after lock picking, then I would purposefully avoid it,
Yeah.
so that yours is valued. Back to our chat here, MX loves saying the language learning sounds interesting, because I've always found it weird that every single creature speaks English.
Yeah. Or how when you're watching Star Trek, all the aliens look like humans.
Yep. So, quick tangent on that. Gene Roddenberry's theory, creator of Star Trek, was that every planet was seeded by a humanoid type creature, and that's why everything was bipedal and upright with just minor variations. So in there was a founding world for that. In Star Wars, the universal language is called Basic, which is why everybody speaks it. So that I'm okay with, but I do have an affinity for those games where there's something like I just see gibberish here, and versus one with just one or two extra words thrown in a different language. You go, oh, that's the old Meridic tongue. Or you're like, no, it's English with two different words changed.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I know that even, harping on Star Trek, how they would fake that with, oh, it's the universal translator. It's coming through their little badge, and it's filtering up through their ears or something, but it still looks like they're speaking English. And in the world of, Google Translate and live transcriptions and stuff like that, that makes sense, even if logistically, that would have been a pain in the butt to do as a TV show.
Yeah.
So it's like...
The other weird part to me was always that Han can understand Chewbacca with 2 or 3 growls. It's like, what? He goes, oh, the Empire's coming over there. We need to tell Luke about this? It's like, how did you get that from 2 growls?
Right. Well, if you just, if you had just leveled up your Chewbacca, your Wookiee skills, you would have definitely...
in that one scene specifically, Chewie tells him Luke is a Jedi Knight. And I was like, nothing in there sounded like Jedi Knight.
No, right. Right. Oh, God. Yeah, lockpicks. Yeah, lockpicks have always been my thing. I don't know why it took me so long to get a learn to lockpicking kit. because
Yeah.
I'm playing it almost exactly as I did back in 2006.
Yeah. Now
But
that's a fairly dark cave there. I mean, we can see I think enough on the stream. I don't think it's too bad, but um that to me is also a throwback to some of those older games as their cavey areas were like dark. You had to really know what you were doing.
yeah, and that was an era before, adjust your brightness so that the logo on the left is.
Yep. Which for me, I always crank. It's like, all right, let's get this way up there.
I don't want to mess with the darkness in here. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if I like this lockpick mechanic. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe as it gets more complex, it'll be more fun. Yeah. What was I say? I remember one thing about this game is that as a thief, it was really hard to get money compared to Morrowind.
Yeah.
So you were like constantly scrounging for stuff.
So that's an interesting dynamic. What is your take on games that do the in-game economy well? Because back in the day, like Nintendo era, you would be, like you arrive in a new town and you've got your rusty sword and your shield, and it's like, hey, I can sell you this stick for 50 gold, or I can sell you this Kingslayer sword for 10,000, and you've got like 8.
Yeah.
Like, how am I ever going to get to that? And then should you ever get there, it felt like they were always overpowered or, outdated soon. Like, what's your take on a good in-game economy?
I think a really good in-game economy is awesome. I remember when I played World of Warcraft back in the day, and to get a mount, you had to have 40 gold. I think 40.
Okay.
It was a sum of change, and I'd figured out the best way to do that was by mining for copper, just kind of in and around. So I boosted those skills. So
Yeah.
I remember I overnighted, pretty much solo a bunch of side quests, so that I could get this mount. So I played all through the night, and then can we knock that down? No. Oh, I'm gonna press the button. There we go. It's like some physics in this game. You can tell that was a big deal. But I remember, I was all alone, just killing 5 of these and turning in their pelts, and killing 5 of those and turning in their whatever they had, just so that I could go to the stables and like 6 in the morning and buy my mount, and that felt like an achievement. Like that was such a big deal, and that felt good. Now, of course, that reflects on like how primitive that economy is, right? If you're just if the item is 10 platinum, and each level is doling out 1 platinum, and there are 9 levels, it's pretty clear like this is a pretty cheap mechanic. That doesn't feel good. But if I'm in a game like this where I have to be more resourceful and I have a lot of options, then that's different. I think our finely tuned economy is good. EVE Online, that game is economy the game, and you see the just absolutely truly evil things that capitalism allows for in that game, because when your primary goal is to acquire money, and that is like your status symbol, and that allows you to buy the bigger ships and gives you leverage to with your companies to hire people and keep them on and build trust and betray trust. It becomes a very interesting social experiment, which is why the stories of EVE Online are so much more exciting than actually playing the game for the vast majority of us. So yeah, I think it could work out really well, and games are the best way, I think, to experience that versus like literally buying and losing your home, or having to buy a car or whatever. If you can understand the lessons of what money is and what it can do, I think that's just the best way to learn it. Yeah.
Yep, in the chat, congrats on 10K. I really like your last couple of videos. Which ones have been your favorite? for Bep and the group. Y'all type those in. And for Nick here, which one's out of the last couple of, I don't know, however many you want to define, what's been your favorite stuff to video? Because we know that you started, I would assume, I shouldn't say I know, I would assume that when you got to start, you kind of picked the ones you were just super duper into. Like, you know, some that scientists will someday are probably the pinnacle of gaming, like Deus Ex.
Yeah, right. Right. Deus Ex.
Right, just arguably, yes, Deus Ex, both of them.
Right, exactly. We're going to get into this.
What about the recent ones, though? You've kind of pulled out some pretty neat ones, and I gravitated to your channel because you covered the ones that I knew. But even these that I don't know as as well, I've enjoyed. Is there anything that you just really liked lately?
I always say, I've been saying it forever and ever. I always say that the newest one is always the best one. Because it's the one where I've been able to, it's just an aggregate of knowledge and skills and things I want to do. Like, you guys really love the cutaways. Where I'm looking at the camera and talking directly to you. And that's something I wanted to implement but didn't really know how for the longest time.
Like little pop-up video, which I don't know if anybody's going to remember that, but that's what it reminds me of, is a little bloop.
Yep. No, I grew up on that. So it was like, hey, I could even stylize it more in that way too. But when I started, I was covering newest games because my first review was Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
But and the idea was, what if you could what if you could do a review and actually take your time and really understand what it was, instead of just like binging through it in a week and vomiting out a thing and putting a score on it, however meaningful that is. What if you took your time and really just analyzed it? And
there's a thought, right?
Right. And unfortunately, by the time that review came out, which was 5 months after I started playing it, and I can't quite account for why it took so bloody long.
Right.
I think I was training for my marathon at that point, but 5 months after Watch Dogs came out, no one cared about what anyone thought about Watch Dogs. So that, and something that I've really come to realize is that aside from, I don't know, maybe like a couple of videos, maybe a couple of the brieflies, basically anything before the break that I had, there's no traffic on those at all because they're just old. No one cares. That's old stuff.
It's always tricky.
It is.
Hard ones to find. MX Love says System Shock and Thief, and then Bep says Shipbreaker. I had never heard of Shipbreaker.
Yes, thank you.
Help me if that didn't really move me, man. I was like, my goodness. That you did a lot of stuff on that one.
That was definitely right. Yeah, that I had held off on doing that one for a bit because it was like, this is something special. This game is special to me, but the points that it speaks to are important to me because of just like, as I talk about in the review, like just where I've been, where I came from, and my life so far. And so to be able to kind of tie that all together, that's what I want those reviews to do. That I don't want to just like, this game has multiplayer. The multiplayer has 7 maps, 3 of which are familiar to you. The balancing is, this. The graphics are... Let's talk about the graphics for the next 20 minutes and benchmarks. And I know there's an audience for that, but that's not me. That's not what I...
Yeah.
So when there are those who will just kind of arbitrarily complain about like the length of videos, it's like, I'm using that length to go places. I'm using that length to do things. And it's not length for the sake of length, although I've definitely done that. I think Thief, in retrospect, probably could have been an hour shorter, potentially, because there were people the whole time. It's like, man, do you really want to do a 5-hour video? And it's like, yes, I do, because I want to do some stuff with this video, and I did, and I'm glad I did, and I wouldn't have had that insight if I hadn't done it. So, but that's why I really stepped away from story recaps and stuff like that in subsequent videos. Can you not? I didn't want to just have a section of the video where I'm just reading off the Wikipedia article on what the game is doing. Like, let's insert that where That's just relevant.
Yeah, and honestly, the plot recap is something I could grab almost anywhere.
Right.
And if there is going to be another group that does a 5, 7, 8 minute video recap, it's probably going to do that, and I'll be fine. Um, Sometimes I will miss a giant chunk of um, like the story or the back. Like, for example, Skyrim, I can't tell you anything else about the Elder Scrolls universe. I know a little bit of Skyrim.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that would help or not. I'm in it to see the immersive elements and how's it like leveling up. And did you find that one tree was almost broken, such as when Deus Ex had that whole thing about you could stealth the entire time and then that one boss mission threw you into combat?
Right.
Or in my beloved Fallout series, sometimes charisma wasn't useful. I need to know that before I spend 10 hours specking my guy one way and then I hit a wall. So
Right.
that's why
Exactly.
I liked a lot of the stuff that you were bringing up is I want a little bit of comparison to something else. I don't want you to constantly go, well, in System Shock, it was this. But you've got to do it sometimes because that's what we're comparing it to ourselves.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I mean, System Shock in particular. Those are revered games, but they're not popular games. So you do have to make references externally, but to qualify them is a big deal. And so, yeah, you don't want to be lazy about it. But yeah, sometimes you just got to do. Did you want to bring out Bolty had a Patreon question?
We got a couple of questions in there. When we were looking through some of these, Bolty, person after my own heart here, wants to know, and I'm going to add a little bit to it. Are you a nap taker? Do you take a nap? And if so, where and how? Like, because I'm a big nap aficionado, so I'm curious on this one as well.
So, no, and it's not by choice. I'm a really light sleeper, so
Okay.
it is only in the just absolute hardest, most difficult, tiredest, conditions can I take a nap, and I'm usually sitting down there for like 30, 45. On a good night, I'm in bed for 30, 45 minutes awake before I fall asleep. So naps are hard. That said, if I need to take a nap, I'm hopping in bed. I'm out of there. I wish I had. That's the point where it'd be great to have a yard or a balcony or something like that where I can just kind of graze or something. That'd be fun. But no.
Yeah.
Oh, here's our deity.
Oh.
So here's your points.
Okay, is this where you first get to pick this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what sets kind of the tone for a lot of stuff. When in Morrowind, you just kind of went through the customs office and you picked a lot of this stuff, but here,
Right.
this is obviously far more elaborate.
Right. Fallout, you had that speech check or the vitalizer or whatever, where you plug them all in. Which one are you, all things being even, and what type of skill are you going to gravitate towards at a point like this?
I want to say, because this is the lock picking one. That's pretty good. Whatever helps me steal. Here's invisible. You get the power once. That reminds me so much of D&D, where you'd actually have to like pick what spells you wanted to memorize before you went to bed.
Yeah, I have to say I'm not a fan of that now, but I can see that it was a holdover from the old school thing. I need something with like a 30-second timer that I can spam.
Right.
Get myself done.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't fit our modern gaming vernacular. Is what we're talking about here. There's a lot of magic ones in here. Paralyzed, like thief. The thief. Well, there's the actual thief. Grants a 10-point bonus ability. Yeah, we're gonna do that. So one time you get 3 of your categories boosted 10 points. I don't know why the cancel out is what you want, is your way forward. He sounds a little wooden in this one. I don't know how I feel about that. This was a get. I tell you what, like you're playing, you play Morrowind, and there's it's got decent voice acting, but then you have the sequel here, Oblivion, and you've got frickin' Patrick Stewart. Like, Patrick Stewart, Jean-Luc Picard was a hero growing up. That was a
Make it
big
so.
heckin' deal.
Yeah, and I read that he was like 40 when they cast him in that,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh, his 40 looks so much better than mine.
Yeah, he has just kind of perpetually looked 65.
Just really nailed that. Slightly, I don't even want to say older because it's not a good service for him, but just nailed that hunky look for that age, man. I was, my goodness, he had it all.
The idea that they had him audition with a toupee
Right.
is absurd, and that
Even worse.
a bald character was so controversial. I mean, he wasn't bald; he was balding. He was
Right.
in between there. So
First
and then he
series
just,
or so, he kind of had the what I always call the horseshoe hair that kind of wraps
Yes!
around your head.
who's the guy on Cloud City with the big mechanical thing?
Robot.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Yep, that was
I
him.
often thought, I could be a alternate world post-apocalyptic Lobot looking guy with the goatee and all, and just threw that on here and maybe eye patch one eye and kind of look like Lobot fell on hard times.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, jumping around just a bit, kind of as we do back and forth on some of the questions here. We have a few more coming up, and if you're watching right now, throw them in the chat. We'll deal them in, and if I'm going to be pulling up the Discord too, because we have those in there, and as everybody knows, we you do those videos about what, once a month for the Discord subscribers, kind of just
yeah.
Q&A, talking about everything, whatever else it needs to be.
Yeah, if you're a Patreon subscriber, you get access to Q&As. I do a monthly Q&A, and they can be questions about gaming. They can be about anything, really. The world is big, and
Yep.
in the reviews that we do here, we talk about the world and not just gaming. So
Right.
we'll get into that. But if you're a producer, which is the assistant tier and up, which is $5 and up a month, you can actually submit questions for the Q&A. So, but yeah, every month, right at the end of the month. So I'll put out a call in the on Patreon, and then in the Discord, because if you're a Patreon supporter, you also get access to special channels.
And then are those videos posted on your open channel, or are they shared Patreon only?
Those are Patreon only. Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
Another good benefit and kind of a neat insight behind the wall thing that we get to have a peek to.
Oh, what is jerks? Absolutely. Oh, don't attack the card. Don't attack the cards. Yeah.
So as we'll skip around, I got so it's in the chat, MX Love is what I'm calling it. It says Gope DNG. So I'm not sure. I'm just going to call you MX Love. Wants to know about playing the game. Says I have a problem feeling bad while playing. Sometimes he feels I could be doing something productive. Do you ever have that? I have that.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I'm going to be honest. And this is something I've really had to. Yeah, we'll put on a shield. Sure. This is something I've really had to come to grips with. Is I don't play that many games. Not anymore. When I was younger, like 20 years ago, when I was at Best Buy, when I had my original Xbox and I was doing this and that, I would be buying a new game like every week or every other week on employee discount, and I'd be doing it primarily so that I would have an opinion about it, so I could, tell the customer who's coming by, like, yeah, you should check this out if you like this or whatever. But these days, I play games, honestly, primarily when I'm doing reviews of them, because then I have a motivation to not just play them, but then to play them with intent and to get through them.
Yeah.
And there are just haven't the most interesting, most captivating games that I've played in the past, like, I don't know, couple of years have been on my phone. And they've been games like Mini Motorways, the Apple Arcade stuff. Like, that stuff's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And like, even a game like this, and this is something I've realized over the years too, is if I leave a game for more than a couple days, it is so much work to get back into it. I mean, it's such a weird complaint, but the idea of even turning on a dedicated piece of hardware like my console and playing a game seems like a lot of work when I can just turn on these two monitors and I've already got a browser window open. I can just queue up 3 hours of YouTube videos while I work on something else.
Right.
That's, to my mind, easier to do. Now, whether like the idea of games being like feeling like a waste of time and that, I think that kind of just settles into the anxiety of like, yeah, is this the best use of my time? Like, is this the most am I going to get the most relaxation or fun or something like that versus sitting back and watching YouTube videos or something, or sitting in Discord, or we'll be in the chatter box on our Discord and just chatting on a Saturday night or something. Like, that's fun. But absolutely, that's a tough call, and I think we all have to deal with it to some extent, and I think it changes as you get older too. It definitely did for me.
Yeah. For me, it was a struggle off and on when there's other obligations that I knew I was not making maybe a healthy choice. It was like just coming home and turning on something and forcing my way to play a game just because I was hiding from a responsibility, or I was, you know what I mean, something else. But right now what I get into is I will play what I want when I want. And then if I start to feel like, okay, I've been sitting for a while, or okay, I've been doing this, I'll stop and go do something else. But I've decided a while back, gaming is my hobby, and I'm totally fine with it. Some people kind of disparage it. Fortunately, I think now that it's so prevalent, there's not as much of a stigma. But for a while, when the kids were little, it was like, man, you know, will anybody, freak out if they know how much I game?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't feel the stigma of like, oh, don't die. I don't. There's no stigma around for me around the idea of playing games as a form of entertainment, even though there are weird. Did I really go that far back? Oh my god. Gaming's fine, right?
Yeah.
But are you serious? Did I go all the way? That's no. Oh, I have a really old save on here from 2006.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Jesus. At level 17. No, gaming as a whole, it's just, yeah, like I said, it's just how far back, or how did I get stuck in here? Where am I at? Am I stuck in here now? Yeah, there we go. It's just making the best use of time. And I think that comes with experience as well. And how that works. I don't need that. That was dumb. Why didn't the autosave help me? Damn it. So, no, I hear you.
Yeah. I need those save everywhere things. I don't like games that force you to replay, especially a cutscene. That would be against the law in my world. If you're going to start me over from a save, it needs to be after the cutscene.
I have not completed the original Hotline Miami because the last boss, the save is before the last cutscene.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so you have to go through the cutscene and thumb through it every single time and then get into action.
I hit a wall on Persona 5 Golden with that. The bad bosses, there's this one boss that everybody notoriously says is horrible and nobody likes it. But it was this long, you have to sprint down a corridor and do a bunch of stuff. Then there's an intro cutscene. Then you start the fight. And then there's another cutscene or two. And then it's just so much wasted time.
Yeah.
It's just not good. So those are different. I get that there's always limitations, but for me,
even design philosophy. I mean, we were talking about Dead Rising and UI earlier, but I remember how just punishing that game was about where you could save and when you could save and stuff like that. You're having to start back in your little hidey hole and like run all the way out to wherever you're supposed to be. Like, that sucked. that was not great at all. And those boss battles were not fun.
Yeah.
So if you were of a particular skill or something, uh, that was fine. But I really wanted that game to be easier so I could enjoy the setting and the gameplay implications so much more. Because the idea of running around a mall, that's really fun. Like,
Yeah.
why don't more games have that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And but the idea of like this is just going to be the most ridiculous way of doing this.
Yeah, and that one in particular, a few things threw me out of it. Like one of them was all the weird ways you had to fight those nutty survivors, and I felt like it was just imbalanced. But I
Yeah,
just wanted to walk through the mall and have to constantly decide, okay, do I want to engage in these guys or can I bypass them to get to this objective? To me,
right.
that was way better. So I don't really know. It's
And
just one of those.
and the fatiguing on the like I should be able to grab a Lego set and just bash in a zombie's head or something
Yeah.
like that. But no, it didn't really do that, and that was a bummer. So
Bep is in the chat playing Horizon Forbidden West. Just picked it up after burning out on everything. He said spending 25 hours in the starting zone doing everything. Yeah, I'm
that is a
I sometimes
struggle.
do that too. I kind of want to know how many how long should I play this game before I can start grinding for the stuff I want to do, such as if I know I want to be a stealth guy and the side quest rewards me skill points, how many main quests do I need to do before I can spend time on that? Does that make sense? Like tell me when when the handcuffs are off, the training wheels are off, and I'm now free to really get into the game. Because sometimes they'll hide it until you do the second mission. It's like, oh, now you got the stealth ability. It's like, oh, I wish I would have known that. I would have done this first.
Right, exactly. Yeah, sometimes they obfuscate that, and it's even if you're not like I've never 100%ed a game before, but some of those games, it's like man, I could just sit here and do. Most recently, when was it? Like, let's say it was summer into fall. I was playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which was kind of like the odd numbered one that no people like less. And I remember I was on that island and I was like, I was kind of enjoying myself. There's no city out there like there was in the first couple games to hop around in. But there were so many little small quests. It's like, you know what? I'm kind of having a little bit of fun doing each of these little individual quests. And I did every single one on the starter island. And then when I completed the big story quest that gives you a ship and you go here and there, and you get the title card, I stopped playing.
Okay.
Like I dropped it cold. I'm like, man, I mean, I enjoyed that, but I feel kind of paralyzed about this idea that now I'm in this big open space. I mean, we talked about on Morrowind of the idea of stepping out of here, which we'll do in a little bit here, and seeing the broad horizon and like unlimited potential. And it's like I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. And Assassin. So I stopped playing Assassin's Creed that way. I did play Zero Dawn on the PC. Thanks to Rain.
Yeah.
And there's so. I'd like to know your opinion on huge ass tutorials that seem to go forever.
Right.
Constantly, like you never feel like you're out. You never feel like you're out of that first stage because the first stage is like the first half of the
Yes.
game.
Yes. I don't like it. And the other one for me is when they make it seem like it accidentally happened or something. You know what I mean? Like they'll say, hey, see if you can find a weapon, which is token for there is one weapon in the room. It's flashing and on the table. Pick it up.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, good. Hopefully we won't need it, which means get ready. They're going to come in. So,
Right.
they all do the same thing like that, which is weird. I kind of like the ones like in Fallout New Vegas where they're like, hey, this is so-and-so. She'll teach you how to shoot. If you want to do this, go over here and take this little quest and she'll show you. And then if you think you know it, or if you think you're good, just get out and start exploring. Or if this is your second or fifth playthrough, just go. I
Right.
really hate the New Game Plus or anybody like me who's played some of these a few times. And you're like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. Why are you making me do all of this tedium for an hour and a half before I can get out?
Right, exactly. And I know at this point I understand the complexity of it all.
Hmm.
When you're having to you're having to set up these playtest sessions and make sure that people can get through uh, whatever it is that you're getting through, because otherwise they get stuck. What in the Prey 2017 video they had No Clip did a documentary on that opening section when you're stuck in the apartment, and players could not figure out um, how to get through or whatever, and they would just have to sit there kind of behind the mirrored glass
Right.
and be like, please do this thing that we designed specifically so that you that you can get out of here. And sometimes they wouldn't, and
Yeah.
that would not work out. Which is this one? This is 3. I don't know if oh, that looks like it's, but it's worth 20. Oh, everything's so heavy. We're gonna get rid of that. All right. Yeah, that gets tough, and especially as games like there's those games of a certain vintage that don't tell you enough,
Right.
and you're wondering like, yo, how I can't figure this out at all. That's a bummer. Because then you feel like you're missing out on chunks of the game. Thief was like that. Thief was absolutely like that. System Shock was like that to some extent. Absolutely. But now they've kind of gone the other way.
Bolty plays those farming sims and sandbox type games, she says, and I'm curious about those. Like, if I'm doing a farming sim, yeah, I need to know how to drive a combine. Walk me through that. But the sandbox ones are kind of hit and miss. Like, for example, if it's Stardew Valley or something like that, I need to know the basics. But I
Right.
do like a world like if it's going to be The Witcher where you're fighting most of the time. I don't want a whole lot of tutorials, especially the ones that pause the game until you do the button. Like I was
Uh,
playing Ghostwire Tokyo and some other things. They're like, you just got a skill point. Hit pause to select the menu. I'm thinking, cool, I'll do that in a minute. And it's like, oh no, I have to do it now. So I hit pause and go
oh.
buy this one level up. Fine, I'll buy this thing that I'm never going to use because you're making me.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, here's your
those
class
things I don't
screen.
like. Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are 2 hours in, and you're just now picking a class. That's an interesting way to do a game.
We're an hour in.
Okay. Oh yeah,
But
yeah. I'm 1 hour in.
yeah,
Um, so Agent Archer, what are you thinking here? What's
I'm thinking.
your?
I'm thinking thief, but I'm looking at some of these other ones where it's like the combat oriented. Um, but some of these things I'm just like I really wanted to get into the magic and the alchemy and Morrowind, but that was like such a weird abstract system that I just didn't
Look
get
at
into.
Spell Sword for me. Can I see what that one is? Because I'm
Yeah,
always curious. That's kind of like the best of two worlds, you know, where they're like, you want to sling spells, but also have the ability to fight.
yeah. So your destruction, your alteration, blade block, restoration, heavy. Oh, you get your heavy armor, and illusion. So I like
Illusion.
all your big schools of magic there.
See, illusion could be really cool if you're, depending upon how they do it. And yeah, MX Love saying the art looks cool. That is something that some of these older games I think did better because they drew, if it makes sense, like they weren't trying to make a 3D render of anything. It's almost more like an ancient scroll depicting the spell sword. You know, that kind of thing to
Yeah,
me is cool.
yeah. They're like I think to Skyrim, where like you'd be at the main menu or you'd be waiting around and it would have that 3D model of whatever in between there,
Yeah.
and you kind of everything was so clean and um, like the type they used a different type. It was a very modern. It was Futura
Yeah.
for their typeface versus this kind of
Yeah.
medieval font.
Ye olde font.
Yeah, ye old font for ye
Yeah.
old role playing game. They
See,
really
like a
changed it out
healer
for
there
that.
too, though. Like, would a healer be a viable option in a single player RPG like this? I just don't see it.
So she gets your
Acrobat.
destruction. See, it's another magic user, but you get
Yeah.
restoration in there, and so you seal the blanket of skills coming up. You did bring
Love
up a
that.
good point earlier. I don't want to forget it. The idea of if you played Stardew Valley and it taught you all of the mechanics in a row,
Right.
instead of just opening it up to you as you went to that particular section of town. That would have been a nightmare.
Yeah. Or if
Okay,
there
go
was a
thief.
token guy in the town who owns the shop, he goes, "Hey, if you want a refresher, come to me." And then it pops up really quickly. This is how you get a tutorial.
Yeah.
You know. In the chat, Aaron Hibbard, did you skip Daggerfall?
Yes. Absolutely did. Absolutely did. That was like before my time.
Yeah. I'm not informed on any of those. Bolty saying she preferred spell sword. They use evocation spells and summoned weapons. Oh, okay. Was that the one like where you can summon ethereal weapons? Like if you want a sword, you make a magic sword out of the air. Those would have been. Some of those did well. That's a neat way. Again, to me, these would be really cool if I could play 4 player, co-op running around. I would like to see, like I could be the healer, she could be spell sword, you could be thief jumping from roof to roof and all that, and
Right. Yeah.
that could be really, like we'd come up on a building going, okay, how are we going to get in here? And you're already on the roof going, I found it.
That seems like I mean, that's kind of what the appeal of Destiny is, right? It's not quite that discreet as far as abilities, but like this and I'm sure Bolty can speak to Guild Wars, is you're specking in a certain way so that you can do this thing. I mean, World of Warcraft is like that with raids, or when you're going into the dungeons. It's like, I'm the support character, I'm the healer, I've got this set up in a particular way, where it does get nasty. And there was actually a Folding Ideas video about this not that long ago, about why it's rude to suck at World of Warcraft, where you have to dial into like the minutia of numbers and skills and abilities so that you're optimized for whatever the heck you're doing, and you can't just organically play it. It's like, no, you did it wrong, you idiot.
A little bit of homework there.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a freaking nightmare. People get really hardcore, and Destiny is kind of bad at that because of the way that their dungeons are laid out. You have to be very precise, you have to be very good. That part sucks. So
Aaron says Daggerfall's free on Good Old Games, remade in Unity with a bunch of mods.
Yes, and I know Irascible could teach us all about the mods. I would be tempted to check out Daggerfall at a point. I don't know if I would review it, and that goes back to the do I want to play a game I'm not reviewing?
Right.
Am I gonna start?
Probably not one that's such a time investment. Like if you're playing a Stardew Valley level thing or something that's kind of like a phone game, sure.
Yeah, because I played Stardew Valley for a good long time on my phone, and that game was amazing. But I didn't really get too far into it. I got into the dungeon where you're into the mines and doing stuff like that, and I had fun with that. But then it would get to the point where I'm just scouring wikis for information.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I'm not really playing the game anymore, am I?
Oh man, now you just totally brought up another one. Is I like a game that I can nerd out on, and then when I get to work and I should be working, I can go read for tips on a wiki, right?
Sure.
I like that. What I don't like is when you have to know the wiki to really get anything else done, or you have to know all these extra min-max strats and strategies and tricks and tips. Otherwise, you're just not going to get anything. That is when it just gets over my head.
That was actually I know it was before your time, but a couple years ago we streamed the original Fallout, and when I played it back in the day, back in 98, 99, I had a do I have that equipped? Is that what's going on? Are you gonna equip? Yeah. No, I've got to put something. But I had a PC gamer where it kind of guided you through the first like 6 hours of that game.
Yeah.
And so so much of how I played that game was based on that. So I had like kind of a constant like, okay, well, this is the town you need to be at because this is where those level of quests are, so that you can continue on and always feel like you're always accomplishing something new.
Right.
And then when I played it and I didn't have that, and I'd forgotten about it, and I didn't remember what was in it, like there were points where it's like I don't know where to go because everything's either too powerful for my character and I just die,
Yeah.
or whatever. There we go. So that sucked.
That's a good level too of, in Fallout again. I wanted to know, can I do 2 or 3 quests in this town, or I should I not be there yet? Because with a good open world, it can't be too linear, right? It has to be, here's your starter town, but if you go over those mountains, you're going to get owned.
Yeah.
And that's okay, right? So Bolty's saying, I use the wiki on games like Stardew to look up character schedules or for Monster Hunter weaknesses. Perfect, right? That's
Sure.
good, because they'll tell you their schedule a little bit. And if I missed it, I can shortcut that by saying, oh, this girl that I'm trying to talk to is only in the shop on Mondays. I'll make sure that I save Monday for that. That's great to know.
But wouldn't that be
It's
great if
really
that was
good.
just an in-game mechanic? Like, to
Yeah.
me, wikis seem like a failure of documentation within the game itself. And I know that games can get really up their own butt about books and like gathering notes and stuff like that. But the idea that I have to go to an external resource to get like a critical piece of information, like Destiny and where Zur was, each week, like it would. I don't know if you were familiar with Zur in Destiny, right?
No.
So in Destiny, there were hub worlds and then there were dungeons,
Okay.
and then every week you'd have this vendor that he would have rare items, and people would keep track of him, but he would spawn in a different place in the hub worlds, in the tower,
Right.
every week. So every week it was supposed to be this fun challenge of where's Zur this week, but what you would do is you just look it up, because obviously the most dedicated Destiny players are needing to find where Zur is, and then whoever finds it, obviously they get the SEO that week because they're the place you Google and the first result to let you know where Zur is that week. And so there's a little bit of a trade-off there where it should have been a fun mechanic. All right, here we go. This is that Fallout part. The Bethesda open here.
Okay, let's see.
We're done. We're done. All right, that was a little less dramatic than I expected, but yeah. Being able to see all the way, like you can go to that mountain, like that's that whole trope is you see that mountain, you can go there. I think I remember actually that might be somewhere we go. So you have to really like switch back across all the way up to get to places. But yeah, now we're out in the open, and this game looks really pretty.
It looks good. It is. So I would think that if they tried this now, that would be a tall ask to get players to stick through all of that into the thing, especially on a second or third playthrough. Like, I like the option of, hey, we will skip you to here, and then we'll put a special menu up to let you do your skills and settings, and on your second playthrough, right?
Yeah.
I think that would be an
like
option
skip
here.
tutorial.
Right, or the intro levels, because it's needed, but it was a long one. Aaron in the chat saying, I like a challenge and no hand holding, but if it's just impossible to figure out, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. I'm kind of the same. Bolty's saying that on Sunhaven, you can see locations of these people on the map, and that's also a good thing too. There's a character in Fallout 76 that's Minerva, who is a special trader, and there is a whole website set up called Minerva's location or whatever, and it tells you where she is, how long she'll be there, because she disappears every 2 or 3 days, and then she'll show up somewhere else. And so, like, as soon as you log in, it'll say Minerva is not in town or whatever it was. Those kind of things are fun.
That's a whole Zur thing too. Yeah, absolutely.
Bolty, you're right. There is a Live a New Life mod in Skyrim, and they have new beginning mods in Fallout, especially 76, where you can start on different parts of the map. You can see different things. You can skip some of the long tedium of those opening, choices. I like that. That's really great for role playing.
Yeah, because I'm not one. I am not one to go back in and why did I reduce my health? If I want to, if I want to eat a bone and increase my health, I want to be able to do that. Yeah, I'm not one to like play for an hour and then start a new build. That is definitely not my jam. But I can understand it, if it is for other people.
So Aaron mentioning every race could start at a new map, like on here, like the
Yes,
sheet starting in their corner. I love that.
we
And
we were talking about
I had
that a couple weeks ago, if I
we
remember
did
right.
with
Yeah,
Cyberpunk. And, you know, if I start as a corpo, I should be in a different area in a high rise. And if you start as one of those, you know, street kids, you know, somewhere else. But again, in this environment in particular, how cool would it be if you're, what are those guys? Is it Imperial? This kind of the snooty,
the
better than you race?
humans.
Yeah. Could you imagine starting in a as like the son of a prince or something in a town or whatnot, and then you start as those orcs and you come from your part and you have to overcome the prejudices of all of that kind of stuff? It's like, man, I really think we could. That would open it up. I guess it would be hard to write scripts for it,
Right.
but if you did it right in a real open world game, why not just go here and figure it out?
It would be like that. It would have been easier 20, 30 years ago when games were so much simpler. Uh, because now you have to build out all that content, right? It's not just the
Yeah.
writing, it's the cutscenes, it's the acting, it's the capture, it's the scripting, it's the building locations. Like, it's that, you know, the inverse square law, where
Sure.
the square cube law, where, you know, every little bit of here adds to 9 times as much further down the line.
But if
And
you
that
could
gets
have just an
tough.
open world, if your game was more along the lines of you've got
This,
to stop these 10 bases that are open and out there, it doesn't really matter where you start. You just go find the bases and blow them up or whatever.
right.
So there would be a give and take to it, and you would have to do it. But I bet you could do a game like Witcher nowadays and put 3 or 4 starting locations, and it wouldn't be too difficult.
Right. Yeah. I think it'd be fun for like 2D RPGs and stuff like that. Like, it'd be
Well,
fun.
those for sure.
It'd be
Those for
fun to
sure.
build out a 2D RPG where you do have a big, you know, game worlds, and
Yeah.
you
And then
you
any
can do
game
that.
like Stardew where you're working a homestead, just start with 2 or 3 different ones. What was the one? Did it have that? I'm totally blanking if it was Stardew or something else where you could pick different ones. Bolty, if you're still in there, let us know, because I know that some of those had Guild Wars 2. She says each player race starts in a home city within their own story, and then eventually they combine. I know that one of the other ones I was used to play way back when, you could pick a starting map of like how much water it had and how much land was already farmed. There was
Mhm.
only like 4, so it wasn't massive, but it was just enough to provide. Again, because I keep thinking of replay, because you could probably think of a game or two that you've played, and when you're done, you're like, well, that was okay. Uninstall, not coming back.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's like, or I enjoyed it, I'm just not coming back. So
Right. You have your cloud saves and that now. That makes it
yeah,
easier. You know, fun
Stardew
stuff
has
like
the
that.
ability to pick from a few different maps. Thanks, Bolty. That was probably the one I was thinking of, where you can
Is
kind
that
of pick.
is that a new thing? Because
I don't,
I assume,
I don't
like, because
know.
I played in 2019,
Okay,
but I think it was just the one.
I played that at one point. I'm pretty sure, though. I know.
You
Well, I
want to go
don't
to
know.
Skyrim?
I really thought you could unlock some more different ones to play through on your second time, because the way that the water words on there, she says newish. So
Okay,
there
yeah.
you go.
It kind of, it's like what the heck is it? PUBG.
Yeah,
It started with that one map forever.
yeah.
But if you fell off, you didn't see that they added like a
Stop it.
billion more since then.
Yeah,
And you don't know where anything's going, and you've lost the entire thread because the game became so different over time,
yeah.
so quickly, especially in response to Fortnite. But yeah, that is another thing. It's the have you had a favorite live service game where it's constantly updating and you had kind of your season with it?
A little bit. Like I've certainly had a few in 76. Like I kind of got the hang of how you play the dailies, and I'm not a daily and weekly type, but if I'm in there for a bit, I might, you know. And then every 3 months they're doing it, or Deep Rock Galactic, I got really
Right.
into it for a bit, and I was like, I think I've done all I can do, because at this point it's all I'm getting a new helmet or I'm getting a new, thing I can build at my base, but the gameplay hasn't changed enough to keep me coming back. Every
Hmm.
now and then they'll add it in, like Deep Rock finally added some really good stuff, and it's like now there's new mission types. And it's like, okay, that's good for a bit. So
Hmm.
I do kind of cycle through those.
And I wonder, like, even on the developer's angle, it's like, how long do you maintain and add stuff to? Because Deep Rock Galactic is done, right? It's not in early access anymore, or is it?
I don't know if it's done, but they're still releasing seasons and big content.
Yeah, because I wonder. I mean, at that point, it just gets into semantics about whether,
Yeah,
oh, I'm we're in early access, but what it really just
right,
means is that we just changed the flag on our Steam store,
right.
um, and then that gets weird. But like the idea, and that I've talked about it in other videos, is the I don't like playing games in early access because I don't want to get
Yeah,
tired of them before they've fully expressed whatever ideas they're trying to do, because
or
I
that
will
they
get bored of
change.
games. Yeah,
Yeah, I
or I get
think I
tired of the
normally
loop.
hold up Deep Rock as the single exception of where I've really enjoyed it. I've bit a few that are like, hey, you know how we were immersive sim? Now we're changing to first-person shooter. It's like, oh, no, I'm out.
Yeah, yeah, I'm done. I'm good.
Those are tricky. Hello, Irascible. Welcome.
Welcome, buddy.
Welcome in, one and all. Throw your questions in the chat as we're kind of digging through these, celebrating 10,000
10,000 subscribers.
subscribers. So, one question I had a few written down for you just based on some of this. Do you ever look back at a video? First of all, do you ever rewatch them? And second, do you ever look back and wonder or think about revisiting, like updating, changing, reviewing it from a second time, anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's really only one that I'd want to redo, and I think that's Mankind Divided.
Okay.
Because I remember even back then, because that was number 7,
Okay.
and it was who's wanted. Even I remember the Gray Fox. Yeah, this is how you get into the thieves guilds
Oh, look at that.
stuff. Um, but I've wanted to revisit Mankind Divided for a while now, because even when I was playing it back in the day or doing that
Yeah.
review, I really
Yeah.
didn't think that I expressed myself adequately
Okay.
about that game. And I remember I felt weird about it then, and then over the years it hasn't gotten any easier. But now that I've gotten deeper and deeper into the reviews and stuff like that, um, I'd like to revisit it, and I'd originally teased it as like, well, if we hit, I don't know, like 500 Patreon subscribers, I'll do that specifically.
Right.
But after, like, Human Revolution has done pretty well as a review, but like not, it wasn't crazy amounts, so I don't even know what the demand would be for that. And there is, unfortunately, there's a bit of that commerce angle to it,
Right.
of if it's not going to be something that's going to recoup my cost of time and, yeah, I can't even do
Effort,
that.
energy.
Time and effort, energy, even money,
Yeah.
because time is money. It's I'd really have to think twice about it. Look at the bloom. There's so much bloom. You can just, everyone's washed out. But it looks, if for 2006. See, there's your orc right there. But I do go and I will watch old reviews, and I will do it. Oh, god damn it.
It's also weird the way in these games, sometimes they walk, but their head is focused on you, so they're turning awkwardly at their shoulder, even though they're kind of always staring at you. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Did I take all my stuff? I don't remember. Yeah, I seem to be fine. But what'll happen is someone will leave a comment on a video, and they'll be like, "Oh man, like, this was really awesome. I really liked it because of this." I'm like, "Cool. I really got to figure out what I did then. Like,
Yeah.
why that was so exciting for them? Because I'll forget. I'll forget
Oh yeah.
what something. I'll watch some of these videos, and it's like I remember, putting it in frame by frame, and over time, like that knowledge just kind of just fades out. And there are some of these where it's like, yeah, I've forgotten chunks of this review were in here. Um, and there are definitely aspects of reviews where it's like, well, I'm glad I didn't do that again ever.
Yeah.
Like with the original Watch Dogs, there was the whole I built that entire open world metric system, OBIOP, that I think I used like
Okay.
one more time, and it just like drags the video down. And I thought it was really
Oh.
smart at the time. I really did, but
Yeah.
and I thought it had a use,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm glad I didn't really. I use it for Just Cause, which is a
When
game
you
that
see
really
those
needed that.
videos, because these take you like, especially just pick that one that we were just talking about, like, not like a general hour-long video, especially a couple years back. Off the top of your head, it takes about how long to make from start to finish?
They're about 3 or 4 months.
3 or 4 months?
Yep.
Okay. When you go back and you see one of those, does it remind you of whatever else was on in your life at that time, such as, oh, that was when I was really listening to this band, or that was when I got my bike and started riding? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you kind of click that together. Does that sync up when you see those
Yeah.
videos?
And if we had like particular ones up, like I could be like, oh yeah, this kind of reminds me of this, or this kind of came out of this, or
I've got a
whatever.
cool
It's
one
not
right
as
there.
strong, I don't
Right.
think, but there are definitely like even Watch Dogs. Just it reminds me so much of that summer in Arizona, and
Yeah.
having my Xbox One, and just
All right. How about let me I'm just kind of looking through. I'm trying to get one here that would be okay, bring back Max Payne 3 years ago.
Matt. All right, so that was definitely the beginning of COVID,
Okay.
and that was that definitely. I was watching Star Trek Discovery, like I was binging those as I was working
Oh, okay.
on those. I was working that I haven't caught up since because I don't watch
Yeah.
TV. But yeah, that was that era. I'm trying to
Yeah,
think
that's
of what else in it.
perfect. Right?
Yeah.
Because every now and then I'll hear a band or I'll see a thing or like a TV show or something, and it's like, oh, that was when I was really into blah blah blah.
Yeah.
That was what I
Right.
was doing at the time.
Yeah, that was just that was a weird chunk of my life, right? That and Alan Wake right afterward.
Okay.
Because Alan Wake in particular, digging out that special edition when it had been sitting on my shelf closed forever, and actually going through all of the special materials and
Right.
reading the book that came with it, like that was
Yeah.
a big old deal. Thief was another, because that just took so long.
Yeah.
Because it went, I started in summer and I had one job, and it finished in winter after New Year's, and I had another job. And it was an entirely, like, life was just very different.
If you weren't making content, so it's almost entirely video game based, right? Like you tie in a few other interests, but if you weren't doing video games, would you be doing content in another field or subject? 'Cause I know you're very well versed in politics. You have strong opinions on like city structure and those things. Have you ever considered doing any of those types of things?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Because there are so many things that I could, and then it's just a matter of, okay, but if I did, where would it go? And that's why more and more the reviews are trying to integrate more external thoughts, not just because I'm bored, but
Right.
this idea that well, I guess this is just a standalone thing. I can go back to the city, and there's the Imperial Tower. But the idea that games aren't made in vacuums. They aren't just, this isn't just game 2 sequel to game 1, and you only talk about game 1, right? You have
Right.
to talk about all the things that come along with it. And so being able to explore the stuff that's adjacent to why a video game exists or why it was made, that's exciting to me. That's honestly what keeps it fresh. Like, if for some reason this became a career, this is something that I could easily envision doing for a while, because I would pick games that I was passionate about talking about, but then being able to tie those into other things
Right.
is really exciting. Like with the SimCity and City Skylines, got to talk a lot about city design and urban planning in that review, and that went great. There was another video where I was covering the Black Lives Matter protests,
Right.
and I got to talk about why city builders don't include that stuff, or they're hyper abstracted.
Sure.
But
So would you have done any of that, like in a different world where Nick didn't start Nth Review for video games? Do you think he would have started a video channel on a different topic?
would I started one on like urban planning instead of gaming? That's possible.
Yeah, just any of that, right? Yeah.
Possible, yeah. I saw an immediate like, because like I said, the initial appeal was I was mad about professional video games. Like, these were these
Yeah.
people getting paid to do this stuff, and they were letting people down.
Yes.
And I wanted to, well, let me put my time and effort and kind of just prove out what I think that looks like. And that's where it came from. So the way that I view anything else then, like, I could use that lens, but it's a lens that could only have existed if I weren't so mad about video games first.
Right. Right. Like some people, I think they're very specific content, and then they can throw one or two on the side. Like Lazy Game Reviews has separate channels. I think he does like food and other stuff, and
Right.
everybody kind of has the one they do almost more for themselves. But I was always curious on. To me, the other neat thing about video games is it's so easy to get the content, relatively speaking. It's all in-house. You play your video game and record it.
Right.
Versus if you were going to critique a bridge that was not built well, you'd have to go out and find footage, or you'd have to pay to acquire it. You don't just have access.
Right. You'd have to go through all that, like the entire. I guess I'm going in here again, but the whole documentarian process, the journalism.
Right.
That's as a former full-time, currently part-time journalist. Like, you have to dig in, and I would love to do more documented features. One of my projects that I've really wanted to do, talking about going back to old stuff, is I have all of the footage that I archived from Infinite Lives, and it was like a year or so ago I started cataloging it in a way that I didn't do back in the day. So there's like, I understand more of what we actually shot.
Yeah.
I would love. I've talked about people about, hey, would you be willing to work on music? Would you be willing to? Because getting music was the thing that took the longest to get that thing cleared. But I would love to revisit that. But going through that footage, it's easy to get discouraged, because you look at it and it's like, how the hell do I make a documentary out of this? And one that's different than what I did, or
Then
more
everything
meaningful. Yeah. But that is, if I had, I don't know, like 3 to 6 months, I would absolutely love to revisit that and do a recut
There you go.
of that.
That's a good way to put it. What is it called? The Donner edit or whatever?
Right, exactly. Yeah, the Redux.
Yep.
That's a lot more
Are you,
plain looking out there than I...
You ever approach with anybody else to collaborate? Has anybody come at you, or is there somebody you've wanted to kind of collaborate with?
I've wanted more like hired hands kind of thing, I think.
Okay.
Like, aside from the podcasts or whatever, like I wish the Nth Forum had been more people would watch that, I think. Because those are so fun. And I've thought about, because at work we did hot takes and streaming breaks, which was Kelly and Victoria and myself, and we would talk about pop culture. And it's like, man, I would love just a weekly show where we just grab whoever's available. If you're available, if Victoria's available, Kelly, if we give everyone, hell, that's great.
Yeah.
And do a weekly show. But if no one's gonna watch it, it's like screaming into the void.
Right.
And that's frustrating, you know?
Yeah.
And is that the best use of my time when I'm right in the middle of writing Giant Bomb?
Sure.
It's just
And
a
then of
matter
course
of
your day
resources
jobs and all the other things as well.
and coordinating everyone. That was the thing with the forum is eventually people were like, yeah, I can't commit to this. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, that's a bummer. So that is that.
Yeah.
So much potential, and if people really like the interview and they'd like to see these videos more often, maybe not these ones in particular. I mean, we would do more of these because obviously we'd be hitting a lot more milestones a lot quicker. Uh, but I'd love to do an interview every other month.
Yeah.
I would really love to hasten production on those,
Hmm.
um, and get them done. But you can only do that if ad dollars are there and if Patreon support is there. So patreon.com/the nth review. Help us out. Make that real. And you'll get more
Now,
nth
on
reviews.
that note, we've got Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, Ko-Fi, or is that supposed to be
I think
Ko-fi
it's
too?
coffee. It's all confusing.
And Venmo. Is there a difference on any of those in terms of how the creator is supported and what you receive? Is one of them preferred?
So, not really. They're kind of just wherever you're plugged in at.
Right.
The two coffee ones are actually they just go to Stripe, so they kind of just they're pretty similar in that regard.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, there were people who were giving like super thanks and stuff like that through the chat, and that gets rounded up as part of a Google payment, but that
Okay.
comes at the end of the month versus being discharged immediately.
Okay.
So if you use any other service except for if you use any of the ones listed there, obviously Patreon would be maybe more commitment,
Right.
but the other ones. Those are relatively instantaneous, or they'll be in a few business days. But doing super thanks and stuff like that, that has to be rounded up. And
Yeah.
so, if you do one of
We'll
these
let
at the
you
beginning of the month,
adjust.
you have to wait till the end of the next month to get it.
Okay. Yeah. And the Patreon will let you adjust, so you can. I know that I have several times, depending upon what I'm experiencing, jump my tiers different ways or
Mm-hmm.
canceled some back and forth. And most guys understand that's life. So
That is, yeah.
get in there if you got $3 or $4 a month and drop it.
If you don't, yeah. And it would be cool because I remember I was, reading conversations, or I was in. Oh yeah, third person. Here we go. Yeah, here's my cat. Yeah.
Uh,
This is like Elden Ring.
yep.
But the idea that the nth review could get big enough where you feel like you don't have to support me because I'm big enough. That seems really cool.
Yeah.
That seems really cool. But until then, that seems really scary.
Yeah.
So
And also the other part I always thought was, with some of these guys, it's like, oh man, I'm only kicking this dude $3 a month. That's not going to make a difference.
every little bit helps. Every little bit helps. I did adjust the tiers recently. There was a $1 tier, and that kind of just got eaten up by transaction fees and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a $3 entry there, and yeah, $3 goes a long way.
Yeah.
And of course, you're getting all all the access in there, the Q and A's, the the more people that there are, the more spicy it gets. Like it'll be more fun to do more stuff with the barbecue, like what we're in right now. It'd be cool to do more Patreon exclusive events.
Right.
But you got to have a kind of a critical mass of people to do that, and then the more support that the channel gets, then I don't have to worry about other work to get this stuff done, to live,
Yeah.
which is something to talk about a good bit in the Hard Space Shipbreaker review is this
Yeah.
idea that hey, uh, with your support, I could do this all the time. If you want to see more interviews, Patreon and the other venues there are the best way to do it. And watching the videos to last. I know a lot of people listen to the videos. I know you do too. But there are a lot of people. It just they just put on the interview playlist and they just listen to it and they're off working on something like that. So yeah, those are all just ways. Oh, you can get a horse in here now too. Speaking of mounts, can I ride on it? There we go. Yeah, horsey. This is
Just standing around. Yeah,
this is the you know, this is the source of the $5 horse armor. You know, that was a very the first big controversial microtransaction. It broke new ground. Horsey.
I like the idea of mounts in games when it's done for a reason, instead of just, oh, plus you can ride a horse. You know, then it's kind of like, you know, the ones like Roach in the Witcher series and Zelda implements them well, like where you can whistle and your horse will show up. And some of that, I mean, it does break up the pace, but I think that kind of goes back to how do you balance a game where fast travel is there, but you're not just zipping around and never seeing the map, versus having to run in real time back and forth just to turn in a quest.
Right. Yeah, and this was a big thing in Morrowind because you didn't have any mounts. You had the Silt Striders. You had a network of transit.
Right.
But you had to know where those.
Which was a very lore-friendly way of doing fast travel.
Right. Yeah, and I liked that. That was great.
Yeah.
But and since they added anytime, anywhere fast travel, why have a horse?
Yeah. And like Skyrim had the horse-drawn carriages at specific town locations, which I used to unlock those spots initially.
Right.
And then I pretty much just fast traveled to any windmill I needed or whatever else was around there. And,
right.
It was odd though, because sometimes you go all the way, like they'll say something is causing a terror out at the old lake, and so you'll go all the way out there, defeat the thing, and then you come back and they go, I heard you stop that monster. It's like, how did you hear? There was nobody there and I just warped back to you.
Right.
And that I thought was kind of lame. If you already know, let me just get credit without having to come back and quote unquote turn it in.
Right. Yeah, and that instantaneous, like everyone's got a fiber connection and they just got a notification on their phone.
Yep. Yeah. Bolty says in Guild Wars 2 mounts, they have mounts and they have a different skill. Like the Raptor runs fast and can leap forward. The Springer can jump vertically, and then there's flying ones, but they each do a different type. That would be fun. I could go for that.
Yes.
A lot of different types of implementation here instead of just one standard, even though they look different.
Yeah, like flying mounts are an interesting idea, but in like World of Warcraft, they were on fixed routes. Whereas horses were you just spawn them and off you go, because you had a lot of ground to cover. Yeah. So, you know, you had to go for it. Oh.
All right, I'm gonna need a just quick second to check on this one right here.
All right.
I'll be right back. Let you run some.
Yeah, let me.
Maybe a bit, because I realized. We've been talking over this whole plot. I don't even know what's going on in here. I just know you're rolling around hacking stuff.
Yeah, we're trying to find the Emperor's son. So hey, I'm coming with that. But yeah, hang on right here with me. Oh, the illegitimate son. Look how much bloom this game has. It's pretty absurd, actually. I got a Kvatch. I think I still have the strategy guide for this game. I think I do. This and Skyrim. And this really solidified the idea of the zoom-in head, because you didn't have anything like that in Morrowind. It was really, really weird and really distant. I guess I'm not going to hack open the dude's chest while I'm looking at him. That said, I am going to steal. Let's see what we can do. I don't want any of this. This is all you. Why would you have tongs in a freaking chest? It's absurd. And wake up this dude.
Yes. You are welcome to take my horse. I rarely travel, so I'm sure you will put her to bed.
Can you imagine a horse? Bolty, you know. Leaving a horse.
You too.
Oh, but I woke up the guy, so I can't steal his stuff. I'm gonna have to go down below. Let's torch the car forest. Is there anything exciting over here? See, this stuff is useless. Alright, that's not as much. Like, I can't... You can steal all the stuff you want, but it's like 1 or 2 gold. What am I gonna get with that? Nothing. What I need is 500 gold books just chilling in a corner. So this game has this was their first implementation of Radiant AI. And so the AI has its own routines, it's got places it's got to go. I remember that was a big selling point. And I remember there was a thing where you would see the people leaving for work or dinner or something like that. And it'd be like, great, this is the point where I get to go in and steal their stuff because they're obviously out of the house. And I remember I was raiding someone's house in the city, in the Imperial City, and they came and they found me, and I was scared poopless, and they didn't do anything. Like, there was no punishment, there was no penalty, nothing at all, and that really deflated how I felt about the AI and thieving in the game. Like, look, all these this is all useless junk. The other thing is there's no lights, there's no lamps to steal. I can't steal a house and kidnap a house. Is that how we work in there? You can't kidnap a house and put all your lamps in there. It's just a heckin' bummer. So, I guess we can go back to the Imperial City, whatever. Guess that's where we're going. I just like this. This is just nice. You can see the shading filling in as we go along, too.
It's kind of one of those hallmarks of those old ones there.
The shading filling in?
Yeah. Or the popping of the trees in the old games.
Yeah, you see that in here, like, that, yeah, like right up there. There was I remember back in 2001, we were comparing the graphics of the PS2 and the Xbox and the GameCube, because that's what you did when you were a fanboy. And they had, everyone would be like, the GameCube looks great because here's Rogue Squadron in it. And Rogue Squadron, which was the launch title, looked pretty good.
Yeah.
But in every single screenshot, there was a point where the draw distance got really hazy. Like, you could see it can only draw out to a distance, and then the mip mapping looked really strange. So it would be like detail, detail, and then mud. And everyone would always point that out every time that happened. So that's kind of, that reminds me of here. But like all the Morrowind was just like bland flat textures on everything, and here you could see just all this grass.
Yeah.
And that felt great. I need to be better at lockpicking. That's what I need to do. Can I get better at lockpicking? Is that allowed?
So, if you level up skills in this for lockpicking, does the mini game become easier or no?
I don't remember. I don't remember if it was like a skill thing or if it would allow me to use better lockpicks or whatever. I remember in Morrowind it was a matter of you could use better lockpicks and they would be better at it, but I don't remember. Yeah. Well, I don't know where the skills are. Where the heck are the skills? Maybe that's in another... No.
Evidently, it is bring your own cup day to 7-Eleven.
What?
I don't know, but my youngest is texting me, Dad, take me to 7-Eleven so we can get a Slurpee. You can bring your own cup and they just fill it up. So,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I've seen memes of that, but I've never done it.
I haven't either. Do you remember the era of Texaco cups? And you would have those little travel mugs, and you would just get them refilled.
Yep.
I'm sure it was like a lesser price. It wasn't like free, but yeah, when we would do road trips in the early '90s, we would have our little Texaco mugs, and I think I lost mine at some point. But yeah, we'd go in there and you just get your drink. And
I remember my small town, Maverick Market was the big chain, and
we have Mavericks here now too, or we've had them for a couple years. Yeah, they just bought
I haven't
Come and
seen
Go.
one in a while, oddly enough. But you could buy these big mugs, and they were super '90s with they were black but had a whole lot of vibrant hot pink and neon yellow and stuff, and you could just take them in. I want to say for like a quarter you could get any size soda or something. I was like, oh, all I wanted in life was that mug and someone to take me in. But
yeah, you bring up the Slurpees because and I realize it's all the same, right? It's all just this sugar water and whatever they do with it,
and ground up ice,
and but I love the Come and Go flavors, and I know they're only in like the Midwest. Really, they're all north of you. Okay. But their Slurpee flavors are just better. It's been hard to go back to 7-Eleven, but I remember one of the last times I went to 7-Eleven for a Slurpee, I went and got one of the Sour Patch straws. And I didn't realize that those were not ideal for Slurpees because they freeze. And so I'd be slurping out and it would freeze, and then the Slurpee would freeze inside the straw. And so everything would just be stuck. And it's like, well, this is a dumb idea. So then I'm like trying to, I don't know, you couldn't chew through it because it was frozen. So it's like, well, this was great. This was just amazing. So I think those were more for the soft drinks, but I think you don't have to do that with like a Mountain Dew.
It's like those old Slurpee straws. You remember they kind of were split at the end like a mini shovel?
Yes. I think they still have them.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think they still have them because, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to pay up what? Yeah.
I like that kind of stuff, man. That made them real unique, you know? Like you felt, if you're getting a Slurpee, like that was cool. But you're right, like nowadays everybody has their icy take on a slushy in general, I guess is the generic term.
I don't know if that guy's trying to kill that other dude, but whatever. Nope, well, I'm dead. That's good. We'd go to Kmart, and they would have ices. And so we would get the because it was blueberry and cherry. And yeah. And so you would do that.
Man, I would beg my mom for the icy or the Kmart popcorn.
Oh, we never did the popcorn.
Smelled amazing. Yeah, we had a full on like that mini delicatessen in the 80s. And I don't want to see the health inspector report, but it looked amazing. You know, I just would beg my mom, can we please just get some popcorn?
Man, don't you remember when like those stores were not all hypermarkets? They weren't like 150,000 square feet, and they didn't have everything. Like you had to go to Kmart for this thing, and you had to go to somewhere else. You had to go to the grocery store across the parking lot for your groceries. And yeah, like it's more efficient, but like whatever. And I remember, the early 90s, you'd go to Kmart and they'd have you'd go to the toys and they'd have the Where's Waldo books, and then they drag you through the clothing section or the frickin',
My mom would still, like if she saw it in time, she'd be like, oh, hang on, we're going to stay here just for a few minutes. They're about to start a different blue light special. We'd have to wait to see what it was going to be. They move that little lamp around, it would flash. It's like, okay, blue light special is now for shampoo and conditioner in this aisle. Everything's going to be this off, and everybody would run over there and grab it.
Oh, that seems a lot easier than, because working at a Best Buy for so long, I was and in a pre-digital age, because like you go to Best Buy now and they've all got the digital signage. Kohl's, they've got the digital signage. They have a location and everything just updates. But I, when I worked there as
Yeah.
media, we would have to get there early, like 6 in the morning. I think it was 6. We were the first people there because we had to merchandise everything. So we would have to yank out, and I remember like just how much it ate up the tips of my fingers, getting the paper signage out of those itty bitty little sign holders.
Yeah, the little plastic sleeve type of thingy.
Yanking those
I did
out
that at
over and
Sears.
over,
Yeah.
and over and over again, and then
Over
you're
and
having
over.
to put in a bunch more, and they print it out in a stack the size of a phone book that you divvy up because
Yep.
you know the feature wall in CDs needed uh it's 6 sections long, and it's all these
Right.
releases, and one of the 4-foot sections is just one album.
Yeah, and it's not quite cardstock. It was kind of a thick,
Yeah.
it was not finger friendly.
No, and it had those ruffled edges where it's separated,
Yep.
so you kind of just feel it a little bit. It wasn't enough to cut you or anything, but it was thick so it wouldn't bend, or at least not bend much. But yeah, it wasn't stiff cardstock or anything. And I
They
remember,
used to
yeah,
bring us the newspaper the night before, so we could have the ad out in front of us, and then walk it with the aisle. Okay, these bikes are on sale. Treadmills are no longer on sale. Pull all the yellow off the treadmill, and then it'd be all back to the regular white or whatever.
yep.
Yep, that was a weird time, man.
And there's so much wasted paper.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and we had to do stickers. We actually we would get we'd have to, we called it farming, where you would have to inject a couple sections worth of um, a new release that wasn't on the feature wall anymore.
Okay.
So you would look how plain that looks. I don't know if it comes through on the stream, but it just looks like primitive 3D. Oh, it's there. That popped in, and then the vegetation pops in.
Yeah.
But we'd farming where we would have to create big chunks of space and shift everything down, and make new signs for stuff, so that we could fit the new stuff in, and that took a while. And sometimes that's what all you would do in a shift. You'd come in and there'd be 3 or 4 other people in your department. One person's got the phone, they're doing customer service. The other person's in the back, they're sorting geo. All of the new stuff, and well, the old stuff came in those big plastic yellow bins, and we would have to sort them out. And early on, we actually put security stickers on them, so they would beep if they went out the door. So they were just kind of a deterrent. It was more theater than anything. But then we would have new releases, and they would come in those direct order boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd have to make sure those. Oh, what a different time that was! I remember, especially toward the last of my years there. We would get in. We would get in games. I remember when Spore came in, and we got it in like, I don't know, the weekend before it released. And I sat there and I just priced all of them so that they would be ready to go.
Oh, wow.
When we did that. And some of these games, we would have like hundreds of copies. And some of them needed to go in impact cases.
Yep.
And it got nuts.
Speaking of physical games, do you remember going to the store as a kid and buying games?
Yeah.
What can you remember, like maybe some of the earliest of those? Because my parents were not super into any of this stuff, did not like us really gaming. So I don't remember ever going and buying brand new, like in a box games too much. I remember we did a lot. There's this little seller that popped up that called themselves the Nintendo Trader. And then she was threatened with legal action, so she became the video game trader.
There you go.
And we would constantly go there. She'd print out these paper sheets that had, like almost a Japan level S, A, B, C, D, E tier for games, and you could swap. Like if I brought a B game, I could swap even for a C game. And we did that, but I don't remember going to buy like brand new games. What do you remember on that? Maybe Nintendo 64 era?
Yeah, it was that era, but it wasn't Nintendo 64. It was PC games.
Okay.
Because yeah, those. I mean, we had a Super Nintendo, right? So we would buy games, but those were rarely new ones.
Right.
Because those new games were like 60, $70.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like $130 today, something like that.
I saved up to buy Street Fighter 2 when it came out. It was $75 in 90s money, and even now that is a ton of money.
Yes.
But adjusted for inflation, that's ridiculous.
It was absolutely insane how much that cost. And when they bought us a console with a sack of games, you know, we were buying the first party ones afterward.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't understand the first party versus you know, like licensed games and stuff like that
versus shovelware and all the other stuff.
Yeah, they didn't. So you know, I had the Star Trek Next Generation game, and that game was not great. That game was very difficult. But we would get Mario games, but it would be the educational ones. So Mario's Time Machine.
Yeah.
But it wasn't Yoshi's Island, which is one of the greatest games of all time. And but so SNES games, I don't think we ever got one of them new, because by the time we got our Super Nintendo, like, the games were out. I think we got like Donkey Kong Country 2 or Donkey Kong Country 3, but that was still like a good time.
Where'd you get your used games from?
No, we didn't buy used. We just bought them like later on, I should say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like when they've been knocked down in price. So yeah, we would go to Toys R Us and we'd pull the little paper sleeve out and buy the thing, and then go to the dude at the counter and up by the exit and get our game from them. So I think that I bought Star Fox for like $20, and this was 96, 95 or 96 by then. So did I throw?
So new, just not new release.
Right. Yeah. No release. Now PC games were different because they were cheaper.
Yeah.
Those were like $40-$50. And
Bolty
so we would.
She was Bolty bought Game Boy Advance games. Bolty, I guess those are new.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it now. I got almost everything used because it was cheaper, and I was very much more is better. You know, like, I could save up and get this one game, but I could buy right now these two games, which is probably just fine.
Yeah.
And I would get home routinely and be crushed that this game sucked. It's like, man, this is lame.
Yeah, that's why from the point that I got my job, I bought everything new. With like rare exception. I also had a really cool... No, Kirby, you're not going to eat the cord, okay? Thank you. From the point where I was paying for my own games, I was buying them new. So I bought like a bunch of games new.
Yeah.
That was a... No, you're not going to do that. From that point, though, you'd have the ones that were not good.
Yeah.
And that would be a bummer, especially if they were, even if I was paying like $40-something for them with discount. That was a thing. Okay, now you're going to go down. Okay, you gonna let go?
I would come through, like, Blockbuster would buy a ton of a game, and then within a few months, when the demand lessened, they would sell them used.
Yeah.
So I would go through those guys or whoever else I could, see what I could do. Bolty says she and sisters would save up allowances.
There you go.
Most of our games new. It wasn't until high school that they had a store where you could buy used. So yeah, again, pre-digital, whatever your town had, that was it. Like, I didn't even know what was out there, because you would go to the 2 or 3 stores, and I was in a small town, and I just assumed that was everywhere. And then every now and then I'd go into a bigger city where my grandparents lived or something. I'd be like, wow, look at all this choice.
Yeah, and then that would be weird when you experience something new that wasn't available, and it'd be like, man, I'm missing out if I don't have my cash on me.
Right.
And can we not die? That'd be great. I don't have a healing potion. That's what I'm doing. See,
it really was just such
it was a different
era.
era. It was so weird. It was so strange. We're gonna get out of here. I need potions. I need to buy stuff. Where's a market? Why am I? I'm just wandering around the hillside here. Um, but
I
like
like the way
yeah,
that your
Toys R
guy
Us.
goes everywhere, including in the water, with his sword in his hand. He's just trucking along. Da, 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 da. This is life now. I got a sword.
Yep, yep. I just watched the Emperor die,
Yep.
and I've got to find his illegitimate son. So let's just look at grass. Let's go touch
Hmm.
grass. Here we go.
There you go.
There we go. That's beautiful. Look at that shading. Game Boy. I bought a Game Boy Advance SP.
Oh, okay.
Like right around when it came out, and that was one of the coolest things I ever bought. Except
Yeah.
it's such a narrow device that I would like cramp up my thumbs,
Hmm.
and that wasn't very fun. But being able to play, granted, a chunk of the games that I bought for it were just SNES ports. So, but that gave me a
Yeah.
good reason to finally dig into Link to the Past when I didn't really get into it on
Yeah.
the Super
I only
Nintendo.
had the original Game Boy in all three green colors, and I would again trade those or find a few. I remember later in life getting some. I'm pretty sure the last Nintendo game I got brand new was Shadow of the Ninja. 'Cause I remember catching of all things an ad in a newspaper that Walgreens or somebody was running this one on sale, and it was two-player co-op. And my mom was going out, and I was like, "Hey, will you grab this? And here's the money." And she did. And then my brother and I played and beat it. But I can remember it just everything was a little weird on it. It wasn't like I thought I was too old for games, but it's more like I don't know how much longer I can keep playing Nintendo.
Yeah,
And then Super and everything else came out, and you're like, "Yeah, I'll be playing games until I die. This is fine." But I
yeah.
remember not knowing it then, but knowing that the Nintendo was done. Like I just don't see them. Like, have you ever gone and looked at some of the last games on the Nintendo system? I mean, they look amazing, but you could already tell that they can't keep up with what was already coming down the pipe.
I mean, that's the Switch now. I mean, that
Oh yeah,
hardware is
that's
so
everything.
old.
Right.
It's a bummer.
Yeah. I'll say Nintendo, they wring every little bit they can get out of their systems, especially with
Right.
that. Like the new Zelda's going to look amazing. It's going to play just fine on the Switch, and it can't hold a candle to any of the other consoles. But I still think they're good at doing what they do with what they have, and it always looks and feels good. Those old Nintendo games, man. Even now, I'll go play. I love to watch. I know we've talked about this. I love to watch Let's Plays on these old games because I can relive it without having to fumble through and find it all. And they're just still super nostalgic, and it was still really fun.
Yeah. For me, it wasn't like the hardware's at the end of the road. It's just we had. I'm gonna bust in this house. I think we're gonna see. Um, Console games just weren't doing it for me. We had so many platformers.
Yeah.
Like there, like 90% of the games that we had were platformers, and
Yeah.
that was really kind of a bummer because, um, they all felt the same. And I
Yeah.
would go to the
Yeah.
next room, and I could
Yeah.
play a game like SimCity 2000, and that game was like it challenged your brain. It wasn't just like mash, 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 mash. It was like
Yeah.
this is a game that like opens my brain to the potential of
Right.
what video gaming can be.
But
And you
for
can't get
me,
anything
that was
like that.
Mist. When I saw Mist,
Sure.
I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
There's a video of this guy, and you have to click, and there's no fight. I remember telling my friends, and you don't fight anything. You don't need a gun.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, that sounds lame. And then you play, oh, okay, this is different.
It makes sense. Yeah. And like I got big into strategy games because there weren't really any strategy games
Like,
on
yeah, like for
consoles.
me, the original Warcraft, and then Warcraft 2 Tides of
Warcraft
Darkness.
2, that's when
That
I got
was
into it.
that
StarCraft,
was like, no, yeah, that was unlike anything I'd seen in the world. I was like,
Command and
what's
Conquer.
this?
I don't know if you got to go into Command
Yeah.
and Conquer, but when
Yeah.
that music hits, you watch those cutscenes. It's like, oh my god,
And
oh
then
my god, it punches.
after playing, then the other one I was going to ask you about is, do you remember the one that shocked you with like shock and awe? Like I remember playing Carmageddon,
Uh huh.
and
Uh huh.
you would drive, and you could win the race by winning the race, destroying every car or killing every pedestrian in the game. And I was like, this is insane. It made Nintendo look like a baby toy. You know, I was like, we were just playing that and laughing and giggling the whole time. Do you remember a feeling like that?
That was a game we couldn't play, or we'd have to be very, very careful about where we would play that.
Okay.
And it was so interesting. Parallel to that, there was a game called Redline, and it was kind of that same idea. It was that like very dark, like violent game, but you could get out of the car, and then you were playing a first-person shooter. And I thought that was like one of the craziest things ever, because you know every other game, it's like you're in a car, or you're a shooter, but you're never both, and you can't switch.
Yeah.
And that was nuts. I don't even know how you solved the. I think I always just did auto attempt because I didn't understand. I didn't.
Is auto attempt a fail safe or is it a dice roll?
I don't. I think it's a dice roll, but I don't understand because every time I would pick up a pin, it would just come down. So it's like, okay, I don't understand. Like, okay. But yeah, like, especially in the late 90s. Because, like, I don't know, from the late 80s, because we didn't really get into games until, like, I don't know, like 93, 94. And we had Game Boy. We had the original gray brick Game Boys. But even those were a lot of platformers and licensed stuff and this and that. But, like, nothing mind-blowing. It was fun. We had Tetris. And we had a link cable purely for Tetris, although we never played it together, which was really strange. And, but, yeah, it wasn't until, like, the late 90s and getting into PC gaming where it was like, man, video games are really something else. Like, holy crap. Master of Orion, being able to conquer a galaxy? That's freaking nuts. Now you can go to GOG or Steam, and there's, like, 20 of them.
Okay, so here's one. Do you remember the first game that you could play over telephone, over the landline, or over dial-up, like with a friend who wasn't in your house?
Yeah, so what I did for the first couple, like from like 94 to 96 or so, I used to watch my dad play games.
Oh,
so
okay.
he would play Doom, and I wouldn't watch him. I just, you know, kind of on the peripheral, kind of know he was playing it. But he would play Descent, and we had two phone lines. So he would call his friend. They would talk on one phone line, and then they would connect on the other. So they used
amazing.
They used two phone lines to do multiplayer voice chat and stuff like that. And that was my experience, was just watching my dad do that. And then the first time that I did it was I want to say I tried that. It was probably a demo, honestly. Like maybe a demo for Unreal Tournament,
Okay.
or the original Unreal. And I remember downloading maps, and it took forever. And while it did that, it would like fly through the castle, which was the default main menu screensaver thing. And it took so long, and then it would. You had to. You would get in the game, and it would be lag pockets. So you'd be coming along, and there'd be people like dancing back and forth, like, and you wouldn't know if you hit them or not, but you would certainly know if you were dead because it happened very quickly.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was kind of miserable. But what we did when we got our computers in 1997, we actually set up. Oh, no. I'm gonna not. Okay, well, bye. Gotta bounce, everybody. But we had a LAN. We had a LAN in the house, and so we would play Warcraft 2. We would play Red Alert. We would play other game. We would play them. Oh my god, this is great. We would play them over the network. We would play
Yeah.
co-op games over our network, and so you didn't have to worry about any of that stuff, and it was great.
I couldn't do that in a house, but I had a few friends. Bolte said she never could play online until college. Her parents had slow dial-up. We had only slow dial-up. I can remember getting a 36.6 modem. Oh, right? Yeah, 28.8, 36.6. I remember thinking, this is it. We will be the best. And I would dial up to my buddy. We played that World of Warcraft in co-op.
Mm-hmm.
And we do some good old-fashioned comp stomping. Every now and then against each other, but normally we like to do that. And it was so weird that you could type and chat in the game. You know, it was like, this is so cool. Because now it wasn't like, can you come over and play? You could just clear out a few minutes of your day and play.
Yeah.
And do that. And then later, like, because my first few bits of playing like Unreal Tournament 2 was just offline. Because I didn't even know you could play those online with strangers and other people. But I would play... And that was one of the first ones where I downloaded all these mods. Like I had a Bender mod for my guy, or Butters from South Park. I would do all those kind of things. And I was like, this game is so crazy. You could change all the sounds out and all this kind of stuff. It was amazing.
And did you ever buy one of those? They'd have like Macmillan expansion packs where they'd be like, here's 500 mods for Quake or something like that, and it would just be a CD just full of mods.
I don't think I ever bought a CD.
I'm
I'm trying to remember. I don't know. I don't think so. I think everything I got was from sketchy sites because I didn't know any better.
Yeah. Oh shit. No, that's not what I want. Resist rest by. Nope. We did the like 300 Red Alert maps. So you just have like a bunch of stuff that modders had put together, and I guess discovered later, like people were illegally harvesting that stuff and charging,
right.
and it's like, oh, that's pretty unethical. So right. That's not great.
I remember a friend teaching me how to look for cracks in wares.
Yes. Yeah.
Remember that expression? Like you would just search up these cracks in wares, and here's how to play this game, or here's somebody's one code that we could all use to download a game, and then we could all register it.
Oh god, dude! Back in those days, the CD keys were a lot easier to get. You could get keygen generators and product keygens and stuff like that, which was great when you didn't have like $500 for Adobe Flash or whatever back in the day. But you just download this thing and it would just generate this thing, and it wasn't dialing out to the internet to verify it. It was just, well, does it match this hash? Does it,
right?
Does it just work?
And I remember guys, some guy I worked with maintained it was probably a typed document in Word or something of all these adult sites with passwords and usernames. Oh my god! And he would they'd pass them around. I was like, I don't know about that. I think I looked at one or two out of morbid curiosity, and I was like, I don't know. He goes, no. This has like 20 of the best sites. I was like, I don't need 20 sites of that.
I'm good. Yeah. I'm plenty all right with that.
I would cave every now and then for the crack or aware of a game, but that was about it.
Downloading games was hard because they were so big. And we didn't.
Even if you bought them right, like King's Quest or something, would be 14 floppies.
Yeah, and that was a lot to download.
And I remember, yeah, it was. And even installing it, every now and then something would go weird, and you'd have to start them all over or put in the last floppy again. And
I remember, I remember something with like there was like one botched install where it's like something was wrong with the data from the 7th disk of whatever, and couldn't finish the install. It's like, well, I don't know how to get through this, so I guess I'm not playing it. But you'd have abandonware back then too.
Yeah.
You'd have that's how I played System Shock originally. I was in college with Orzine. Yeah. And like one of the first things I did is I just went on, here's an abandonware site, and I'm just gonna download the original System Shock. And it was really strange. It was like, this is very different than what I'm used to.
Yeah, sometimes they'd be unfinished. like you could only play 3 levels or something, or not all the characters were there. You know, there was always those weird quirks, and then of course there's a ton of shareware and freeware, and they're like, look, if you like this, send $1 to this guy.
Right.
Otherwise, just play it.
Right. Yeah. Or is it just a shop? Can I just find a shop? I think maybe the merchants are... Maybe they're on the south side. I just want some healing. That's what I'm always digging for. I used to pronounce it Juarez instead of Wares.
Uh-huh.
Because I just thought that's what you did. I was at Newgrounds a lot in those early days too. I did a lot of web forums, but I was definitely I got into Newgrounds. That's where I did my first cartoons.
So the Nick that was back then buying used Super Nintendo, or not used, older Super Nintendo games, right? What would that Nick have thought about you today with this, 10,000 subs, getting to stream all these fancy games, getting to talk to people around the world online? What would he think about that?
That'd be so freaking weird. I mean, I remember in 1999, I was in this. We had built this Fallout guild, which didn't make sense because Fallout was a single player game and there were only 2 of them. But I remember I was talking with someone in Israel, and I was,
oh wow,
yeah, and I'm like, what the heck? How is this possible? So like the technology always seemed like, that seemed like a done deal. But the idea of like this entire thing, like what we're doing right now, was not could not have fathomed it at all. Like, how strange. Mm-hmm. How is that even real? How are people even making money off of that?
Right.
Yeah, I would have definitely thought that was strange, and I would have also been like, where did all my hair go?
Obviously, that'd been my first thing would have been like, oh, you're bald, lame.
Yeah, you're like, okay, well, you did it.
Yeah,
you did it.
I remember thinking you would see some ads every now and then, like, in the future you will be able to type to somebody around the world, and you'll be doing this and that. And you can play chess with somebody in Hong Kong, and like, okay, maybe
that's a nice dream.
Yeah, there's no way I would have thought video.
Right.
That was only on Star Trek or something, right? And there's no way, if it was video, it would have been a wall-mounted phone where you like walk up on, I don't know, like an old Stallone or so movie where you unhook the thing and you hold it up while you stare at the guy you're talking to. That would have been it. The fact that we can do this or drive around on your phone and do all this stuff, there's no way I could have, grasped that.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just watching TV on the internet, really, that would have been something else.
Yeah. The streaming thing. I mean, I can remember, because this wasn't so long ago, when Netflix started streaming, and I was babysitting my kids, just watching them, and I carried a laptop into there and plugged it all in, and they only had a few hundred things. Most of them were lame Discovery Channel style documentaries, but I could now watch the show in any room in the house, and I was like, this is nuts. And I showed my wife, and she's like, nobody's gonna sit at their computer and watch TV. Nobody's gonna do that. This won't work.
That's interesting, because when that started kicking up, I was already doing that. Like, I remember when George W. Bush was finally, cleared to be president.
Okay.
And I remember watching his speech live from the Texas Capitol.
Oh.
When, because I don't know if they resolved that, and it was like December. So this was December of 2000, and I remember watching that live. And obviously obviously it was like hiccuping, and it would look like it was underwater. And then you would sound like you were underwater too, because the compression is so bad.
It does that really weird sound. I don't know how to describe it, but it's that
like
hollow sound. Yep.
Yeah. I don't need 5 torches. I need like 4.
You might.
I probably will now.
See, I'm that save his potions guy. In a game like this, I would be dying right and left with 32 health potions that I'm saving just in case.
Yeah, right. Just in case you need it. Look at all these guides. These are amazing. I should really use the individual things here.
How you fix for corn and radish there? You gonna need some more of that?
God, I just gave away all my corn and radish. It's like a freaking absurd. You don't have any. I'm gonna have to go somewhere else, aren't I? Yeah, that's. I will tell. I don't even know who you are, but okay. Now, no, I don't want to steal your stuff. But I do have to go to the potions person, whoever that is. That was one cool advantage about having a strategy guide, is you didn't have the kind of the game's small interface to work around.
Yeah, and sometimes they would explain it in slightly different terms, like, "Oh, that's what you mean."
Yeah, yeah, and certainly more helpful terms. It's like, yeah, that helps me out. That helps me out. But no, I like Netflix going to actual Netflix made a lot of sense to me. And I don't have any lockpick. Did I give away all my lockpicks? I hope not. But I will steal this. How did you even see me? Where are you? All right, so that was one of the things I don't like about this. Is that how did you know? And now the guards are gonna come for me, aren't they?
That's one thing that they're still struggling with, I think, is what people can and can't see you do in a game.
Yeah.
Like, I hate games where they can shoot you from across the map and they just see you through the foliage and the tents or whatever. They just know where you are and they just start shooting.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you were out earlier, this was a game that was this was their first Radiant AI game.
Mm-hmm.
And so the AI would have dynamic agendas and whatever. And I remember I went and stole from a house. I would watch the AI leave to go to dinner at a restaurant across the way, and he'd be like, all right, cool, I'm going to go steal from this house. And I would steal from the house. And all of a sudden, the owner came up. I'm like, and they're like, get out of here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh. And that was the end. So that like totally killed the tension.
Yeah.
Am I stuck here forever? Is that what this is? Or am I just stuck here for an indefinite period of time?
Like Hitman was pretty good with that. Sometimes a guard that's walked back and forth twice will break his stride and go somewhere else. And you're like, and now you're like hiding, doing a dance around a bed or something that he can't see over. And they're like, okay, never mind, I'm okay.
Yeah. I've not played a Hitman game, and I know everyone loves those.
Well, I like the immersion factor of some of it, right? And I like that you can do it over and over and over.
Yeah.
And that's good.
And there's a puzzle element to it.
Right. And then the other one is I am not that super spy guy. Like I will, save scum and then do whatever it takes to get in and out. And I normally have to play on one of the lower difficulties where those people can't, they don't detect you as quickly. But I just don't have the reflexes for it, nor the time. Edward in the chat says, hey man, love your stuff. Recommended your Deus Ex video and have been loving them ever since. Keep up the good work. When is the KOTOR video coming?
That's a fantastic question.
KOTOR. I haven't even thought about that one in a while, man.
I actually booted it up just to make sure that it worked.
Okay.
I've played through, I'm on Terrace right now, so obviously starting out. I made it through the Elder Spire. But yeah, I've got that first 45 minutes or an hour of footage.
Yeah.
Because I want to do that before I do Mass Effect. Because that really lays the groundwork for those Mass Effect games.
Right.
But I'm in a... I want to do Starfield, and that's out in September.
Yeah.
And I'm writing Giant Bomb. Am I stuck? Am I in here forever? Well, give me the fucking key then. Let me get out of here. So yeah, Starfield is September. I'm writing Giant Bomb. I'm hoping Giant Bomb I can be done with that before the end of June by my birthday. That's my goal.
Yeah.
and then that leaves like July and August. So maybe, but also potentially System Shock Remake is coming in. Maybe.
Yeah.
And if that pops up, I'm gonna hop on that. So Starfield's the priority, so it's in there. It's however the knuckles get knuckled around. KOTOR is in there, and then Mass Effect will be after that. So that's the dream.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for watching the stuff. I'm gonna reload a save because I stole three. Criminy, 3 gold, and that's what you wanted to kill me. All right, yeah. Yeah, we're gonna roll back a little bit further. Jesus, I have to roll back all that way. Being a thief in this game sucks compared to Morrowind because there's too much accountability. Maybe if I go out to the freaking wasteland, like, I'll be good. I don't know. So yeah, I hope that answers your question about KOTOR.
I haven't played that in a while, and when I played it, I liked it.
When
You know?
Yep.
I don't know that it's held up. Excuse me, that it's
Spoilers.
held up well enough for me to play now.
Spoilers.
But man,
So I played it when it came out because I was a big Xbox fanboy, and I had to play. That was a huge deal.
yeah,
KOTOR was because it was the Xbox's like first big role playing game, and it was Star Wars, and it was D20 based, and it was
okay.
it was all these. That was the big thing, and it's like, we don't need Final Fantasy. We've got Knights of the Republic, and this can never be done on a PS2. And so I played it. My dad played it. My dad played KOTOR on my Xbox with my Duke controller back in 2003.
Okay.
And then I had a 360, and I played. It was one of the backwards compatible games, although it didn't work quite well on there. Like, it was stuttery. There was like a lot of laggy stuff in there, and but I played it again in 2007, and even in 2007, it was like, this is really linear and really simple. And I had not realized, because I think I'd gotten up to the point where you go to Dantooine, and I was like, man, and you got the Ebon Hawk, you got your ship, and I thought that was cool, even though you couldn't really do a whole lot on there. But it was
I want to
so
see more of those.
so
I'm hoping
linear.
Starfield delivers that.
I am too. That's the vibe that I really want. That's what I really want, that out of that game, and I'm hoping it delivers on that too.
Chat's lady in the chat says, "What's your favorite Nintendo game?" So I would say, can you think of one that's first-party Nintendo, like from their studio, and then maybe one on any Nintendo system?
Yeah. I think it is Yoshi's Island. I think
And was
Yoshi's
that
Island is the best.
Super Nintendo?
Super Nintendo, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That game, that cartridge had a Super FX chip in it. Because that's how it did all the transforming and distortion, like when you would do the touch fuzzy get dizzy. That was all done in that chip. So I think that was it. For the longest time, though, it was Donkey Kong Country, but then I played that more recently, and I realized that game is not great.
I don't know if I've ever done much in Yoshi's Island besides kind of just at a friend's house or something. I should go pull that up.
Should. That game is amazing. Again,
Go.
I would argue that's the best Mario game ever made.
Okay, because Mario World is my favorite Mario, and that's largely nostalgia. Just
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I cannot tell you how many times we played all that, and then I still think to this day, in Mario World, you get 96 with the star for completing all those bonus levels, and it changes the colors of some textures, and it also changes some of the enemies. And I don't think I've ever seen that since, and I don't know why. It was such a cool thing. Like the Koopas, instead of being Koopas, they turn into these big Marios. And if you stomp on one, instead of a shell, it leaves like a fake Mario hat. It's almost like they're Koopas with a Mario helmet on,
Okay.
And so when you stomp on them, the Koopa slides out and you leave a Mario helmet. And it's just little things like that were really neat. And I've never seen that. I don't know why not, but it's really, really cool.
It's just the little touches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's legit.
Yeah.
I wasn't the biggest fan of Mario World because it felt like pretty like default Mario, but I know people love it. Because I've played all the Mario games, but they're not my favorite aside from Yoshi's Island. Because I mean, some will be like, well, Yoshi's Island's not really a Mario game because you don't play as Mario, you play as Yoshi, and like whatever, fair. So then I would say I really loved, and this is a hot take, I liked Mario Sunshine over Mario 64. And because you had the water pack,
Yeah.
yeah, you had the flood pack. You're going around. I'm gonna save this game so I'm not losing a bunch of time.
That was. I liked Sunshine a lot, except I was just at a spot in life where I wasn't good at managing the frustrations of anything, and I took that game nearly broke me, especially on the ones where they would take away your backpack. Like at least one level every now and then, the Shadow Mario would come and yank it away, and then you'd have to complete this in space style obstacle.
Yes.
And I was so set on it. I was like, oh man, I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So some of those challenge puzzles were nuts. And I had a strategy guide for that one too. I don't even know. I think I was just buying it just to help my department numbers.
Yeah. I would routinely go to the store like a Best Buy and buy the game and strategy guide in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
And just be ready to go.
Yeah.
And
I bought
was
this Skyrim. I've got the hardcover version of the strategy guide, and I barely played that game, which kind of a bummer. I've got it for. I wish I had it for 4, but I have the guide for 3. And then best game. I think I'm just gonna follow the story at this point. I'm done fucking around here. The best game that I played. It was the best game on a Nintendo system. Or favorite Nintendo. Oh, you asked.
Yeah.
Best game on any. Gosh. That's hard because on Nintendo systems, it was kind of like Nintendo was the best stuff, and very rarely did anyone really like do much.
Well,
to
I would
augment
say
that.
on the 8-bit Nintendo, you had plenty to choose from, but after that, it was
harder,
a little bit more sparse. So, like on the original Nintendo, my all-time favorite is Bionic Commando.
Oh, sure, okay.
It was by Capcom.
Yeah,
and it was a really neat premise and idea, and I just. To this day, the music, the look, the art, I love it all, and I will play that over and over.
Right. I am really struggling to think of like a Super Nintendo game or even a Wii game or just any one of those games where it was like, what was a game that was not Nintendo that was amazing? And that gets really hard.
I guess you could find... For example, like Final Fantasy or some of those were Square.
Yeah, but I didn't get into that. And my brother got it to Mario RPG.
Yeah.
I even that thing, and I bought one of those mini SNESs.
Yeah.
But all the games I played that I really enjoyed were first party, and then the ones that weren't, I'd never played before.
Bolty mentions Crazy Taxi. Did you ever play that?
I didn't have a Dreamcast.
Oh, I played it somewhere, and I don't remember where, but I was just, that was one of those, I would laugh while I played it. It predated GTA 3.
Yeah.
So the fact that you could just haul around and do all this goofy stuff was hysterical to me.
Right. I played Hit and Run, The Simpsons Hit and Run, which was the Crazy Taxi
That was really
clone.
good. I was trying to get that going the other day, and I couldn't. My PS2 wasn't working on it, so I may have to.
It was a simple game. Like I remember, it was like not a high budget game, and it felt kind of bare bones. But we played a lot of it.
Chock full of Easter eggs for The Simpsons, man.
And then, what? No, because there was 2 of them. One was this Crazy Taxi clone, and one of them was the GTA clone.
Yeah.
and I can't remember which one was which now. What was it? I want to switch. I want to say Hit and Run was the Crazy Taxi one, or maybe it was the GTA one. Hang on, let's use the power of the internet. Hit and Run was the... Yeah, okay. Yeah, Hit and Run was the GTA one, but what was the Crazy Taxi one? Because Hit and Run had, like, the zones... Road Rage. That's the one. Yeah, Road Rage was the Crazy Taxi clone. And it has a game art cover that I will always remember.
Okay.
Because it's got, like, Krusty ducked down in the corner, like, fearing for his life, and Homer's driving, and yeah. Even GameCube, because I had a GameCube. The games I played on there. I mean, I played Super Monkey Ball. That was fun.
Yeah.
But my favorite game on there was Eternal Darkness. That was first party.
Which the Simpsons one though that you were out and running around most of the time? Was that Hit and Run?
That was Hit and Run. Yep.
Yeah, and then okay.
Yep. And that was the bigger one. That was like you play Road Rage and it was like very simple maps.
Right.
Very simple layout, stuff like that. And I would play Metroid Prime, and that game was pretty amazing. Animal Crossing. Played the original Animal Crossing. That was
pretty
pretty
a few
rad.
of those. I was never giant into those, but those kind of came along at a different time. When those were really coming out, I would I don't know, probably a lot more into the wrestling games, and also just anything that came out from college and grad school is real hit or miss. I just couldn't spend a lot of time on that.
All the games I got in, like I had to get in before college because I had no money in college, but I used the retail discount program as much as possible. But I came there with a lot of games, and there was another big one that we would play. It was Hunter the Reckoning, and that was a 4-player co-op. But we got to a point where the game would just crash, and there was no way to get around it. So, like, well, I guess we're not playing this anymore.
Right.
And there was no way to patch it.
Nope.
Back in those
days. The
days.
other weird thing is, like, so many times, I remember my first run of New Vegas. I was going with the NCR, and I got all the way to the end, and it was a famous bug. You are on the last final mission, and you go up to the guy in charge and tell him, okay, I'm ready to this is the point of no return, I'm ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And he would freeze, and he'd go, like, with his mouth open, he'd just go. And you couldn't advance it. It was a known bug. It was creepy. Because, it's that weird jaw-looking thing, and he's just standing there. And it was like, there was no way around it. The only thing you could do was go. So I remember on that play, I went back and doubled up on a few quests for another group, and then I went over there and was like, nope, I guess I'll be a bad guy and finish this. But then, of course, years later, played on the PC and they got it all finished. You're like, okay.
Yeah, made it a lot easier.
Yeah.
I bought New Vegas at a discount. I bought that and like a bunch of movies at that time, and that's when I played it. Because I think after Fallout 3, like working through that, I didn't have the appetite for more of that. Even though it was a different game. Sure. But when they brought out Fallout 4, I saw from the initial trailer that it's like, oh yeah, they're doing some stuff to make this a different adventure, and that's rad. And I really liked Fallout 4. I know people have their problems with it, but I really liked Fallout 4. Checking out these rats. My goodness. Oh, see, this looks neat. Like, this is the stuff I wish Morrowind had, with like the rolling hills, the greenery, stuff like that. Like, so much of that, even in the parts where it wasn't flaccid wasteland. It looked like
Yeah.
flaccid wasteland.
I think the difference for me is a little bit is good, but I don't want to get stuck where I'm just traipsing out there for no reason. Like 2 or 3 minutes in my real time running to turn in a quest, I'm bored. But you get some of it. It's just kind of, it's got to have a good balance. What I always wanted was a game that would approximate a real world in, you know, the 1400s or so. Like you've got people on a beaten path and it's relatively safe,
Yeah.
and guards every so often, and they don't, it's not just factions that attack you for looking at them, but they're just there. And then you could shortcut across the forest and you might find bandits, you might find an animal. But I'm kind of tired of all the mythical things, and I'm tired of rats and crabs and all of those always after you. I would rather have almost exclusively humans with the occasional real world, so to speak, animal, right?
Yeah.
And just to see what it would be like.
So that's an interesting question, and we're talking about these Fallout games, but one spot where I remember it was a really big deal was in Fallout 4, was how games like this and other open world games that kind of uniformly distribute the activities of the world. So every time you do anything or go in any direction for a minute, there's always something new, even though that doesn't really follow realistically the geography of the area. It doesn't, like, there's no reason why on a flat grid I should be able to lay out a flat grid and there's automatically something on each data point.
Yeah.
Because that's not how the real world works. Like, yeah, I should be able to wander through the backwoods here and nothing should attack me, but then that's boring, right? If there's a rat coming after me, however contrived and dumb that is, you know, there's at least some sense of danger.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've thought about that.
What if instead there was an emphasis on you taking environmental damage? Like if you run too quickly and you jump off a boulder, you like tweak your knee or something, and now your movement is limited. You know what I mean? Just something.
Yeah, I mean, there have been games that done that. I mean, even jumping off that, like falling off a hill here, you take damage. It's not like that specific, but...
right? Or you know, you could rip your gear or something. Like if you got a giant backpack that's overloaded and you're sprinting along and the strap breaks, now you have to either carry it with two hands or abandon some of it. Just something that would almost be like a real life consequence to which way do I want to go, because I'm all about also avoiding enemies. I think not every enemy should chase you until you break their line of sight. There should be enemies that go, look, he's way over there, just don't even worry about it.
Yeah,
they
smart
may go
enemies.
Up and flex. Yeah, they'll hold up their sword or something if you're coming near them. If you walk away, they're like, yeah, screw it, you're afraid.
Yeah, or if you're swinging and they're like, oh no, I'm good.
Yeah. That was
I don't need that.
Was my other biggest pet peeve of some of these games is like you're in that full-on power armor and Fallout, and some half-naked punk with a pool cue is going to charge you. It's like, this is stupid.
Yeah, I mean, the radiation does fun things to your brain, but that's not one of them. You know, that that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, you know, I feel really weird playing this, because I remember when I would play this originally, like I would really have this kind of explorer's mindset of like, I really want to see all the details and try all these different things. And now all these years later, like the magic isn't quite there. Like I don't feel like I'm, and I think that, you know, we were just talking about games earlier, just all together and finding time for them. It's like, there are so few breakout experiences anymore because the technology has settled.
Yes.
You know, it's not like the difference between this and Morrowind was 4 years, and it felt like 20. But this does not feel that dramatically more different than what you would play today. And and this game is 17 years old. Yeah. And that's kind of a bummer, and so you have to find other ways to be I don't know if these guys are bad or not.
See, that's the other thing is, in general, in a game like this, you're going to come across anybody and they're hostile.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, no matter who you come across is, and they're going to be able to take you, you know, they'll be okay. It would be really neat. Oh, it looks like they're not. It would be really neat to see more people that are strong enough to take you out, but not going to challenge first. They're more like, look, if you want to start something, die, that's on you, but we're going to be okay here.
Yeah, right, exactly. So games have to really be something special for me, um, to really move the needle at all. And I
Yeah.
think that's a reason why I like doing the reviews is it gives me a reason to be like, all right, let's see what you got, and
Yeah.
have a reason to really dig in and find it.
Well,
Um,
another and on that, another neat perk of being one of your patrons is several times now you've asked for our input and either quotes or experiences or takes that as producer level subscribers we're able to do. And I got to say, selfishly, it's really cool to get to part of your review and you're like, and then Baldy said this about it. I'm like, hey, yeah, that's me, man. I did see that.
which reminds me, I actually have to solicit feedback on. I don't know how many people were like Giant Bomb fans. I don't know if you ever went to the site,
I don't think so.
but like just a site that you like was your home. Like,
Yeah.
what was there a home that like every Friday or something? It's like my crew here has a new podcast or they've got a new video series or something like that, and this is really dumb. And like you kind of had an affection for them, like almost parasocial,
Right.
but like before YouTube and you were just subscribing to everyone, was there a site or a gaming group that you had to hear their opinions for, or even before that, like a magazine? Like was
Yeah.
there a group of people that you really trusted? They were your pals, and then you kind of either you drifted away or they shut their doors, which happened a lot in the late aughts.
Right.
I think that's probably what I'll be asking Patreon subscribers.
That's a
So
good one.
I gotta
I was
remember.
big into game facts for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and that was kind of where I went first stop of any game. But the closest I got to what you're describing is my favorite, cooptimist.com. And with those guys, I'm still super active. I met some really great friends there. And they used to have those old PHP boards. You remember that? How
Yes.
everybody had that.
Yep. Like
And
V Bulletin
man,
and PHP BB. Yep.
and that was what I lived and breathed on. And we were forever discussing, oh, look at this rumor, or this guy's going to release this. And, whatever else we were into, music or something, there was a sub for that. But that was about it. I'm really curious to learn about Giant Bomb on this. And I haven't, and since I had to go look what it was
Mm-hmm.
when you were telling us about it, because again, inside your Discord and other stuff, we get the sneak peek insider, so we knew it was
Right.
coming. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's going to be great." I didn't know, so I have purposefully avoided hearing about it, so I could get your take, and then I can double back and see what everybody else was thinking. So I'm really excited to see if any of the other members are going to have contributions on that.
I am too, and that'll be interesting because, I mean, and this is definitely one of those videos where, it's like I'm not covering a big game or something. I know that not everyone, it'd be the same if I covered OneUp.com or any of the other gaming outlets or something like that. You have to have kind of a history for it. So the idea that I'm taking something that hasn't been covered, like that's kind of a blue ocean thing. So my goal then is to be able to make this, and then maybe you have a curiosity, if you don't have an outright nostalgia or a memory, to like, oh, I'm going to check this out, or I'm going to know how this connects with this, or this and that. Because early on in the script, I'm covering like this complex web of M&As from all these companies that created all these new venues or outlets, and it gets really complicated. But you going through that, you find all these threads to all these different places that existed at that time, and it's like this guy knew this guy knew that because of this, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
and IGN's the same way on the other side, but thank God I didn't have to untangle that freaking knot. It got really crazy in the late 90s.
Yeah, some of those did. And like GameFAQs was bought by or merged with GameSpot, and that was when I kind of slowly faded out. It just was slightly different.
Yeah.
It was run by, and how could it not be? And I don't begrudge him any. It just was different, and it wasn't what I found useful anymore.
Did GameFAQs have like a crew or like an editorial staff at all, or was it just like this was a site and these were the users that hung out here?
I'm pretty sure they did. They had boards as well, and they had some of their top ranked guys do stuff. I contributed a code or two here and there, and I wrote a game fact for one or two games, and
Like the full guide and everything?
Yeah, it wasn't anything crazy. It was backyard football.
Oh, there
which
you
is
go.
a super fun game on the GameCube.
Uh-huh.
And I just really loved it, and it also was an easy one to kind of put some things into, and I just wanted to see if I could do it. So I was unemployed at the time, and it gave me an easy creative
yeah.
break, and that's the one I ever did. And every now and then a review, and then they kind of changed some of the rules on stuff, and I just kind of fell out. But they had a couple of their main guys, and then it became a whole lot more about all the other websites that were out there with articles like, did so-and-so say this on this upcoming game, or will we finally see blah on this? So, I don't need
like
that. I'm here for telling me, like, if I get this weird issue, is there a fix for it, or is there a cheat code to get beyond this thing? That's all I wanted.
Right. Or you're stuck on a particular freaking level. And
and the other neat part was around Xbox time, I got some kind of external dongle, and you could import game saves. And that was really cool. So like I would play a game, but I was never got 100%. But I remember I got Time Splitters 3 Future Perfect. And I loved it. And then I got a game save of it at 100%. So I had all the maps and all the characters and all the everything unlocked, and that was just great.
I want to say I saw that at E3 one year. I think they were showing that off.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing that art because it's the dude like bouncing out of a portal.
Yep. He's all, nowadays it looks super, super CG, but back then you're like, that's great.
Yeah. There was a lot of that back then. Yeah. It was actually weird. If you look at a lot of the early Xbox games.
Yeah.
Oh shit, it's an Oblivion gate. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Or is it Oblivion gate? I think it's I think this is an Oblivion gate. The earliest Xbox games, a lot of the first party games were painted. And they don't look as good.
Right.
Which is strange. I hated Oblivion gates in this game. I really did.
Yeah, there's a few of those different things like that, and it was, I don't know. It's kind of going back to the old school question about judging a book by its cover, when you would see artwork or something pop up, and you're like, oh, I wonder if this is going to be any good. And then sometimes you would have to, have to get a review in, and sometimes you'd have to play it. And if you were lucky, you had a friend or somebody else that could tell you, oh, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, and that's why I bought so many games, is that I needed to know.
Yeah.
I would play games like Dead to Rights and Quantum Redshift, which was the guy who did Wipeout. He went and did a racing game with Xbox, and I enjoyed it at the time, and I know that I cannot go back to it because there's like bare bones. It's like bare bones content. You could tell they were building it on a budget, and the powers were lame. And it was just weird, and the maps were weird. But back then, it was like, that's pretty great. And, when you're an Xbox fanboy or a fanboy fan, you would take every little bit you get. Were you one of the Game Genie people? You have that little thing in between there?
Absolutely.
I remember.
I've always been big into getting the results of that. I don't want to say a cheater as in cheating to beat a thing and then tell everybody I did. It's just more like I wanted to exploit the games and see what's the most I could do with them.
Right.
So I got Game Genies and Game Shark and all of that on any console I ever could.
Right. That's a bunch of stuff. Oh, that's...
And
I want to do a shout out to MX. It's MX Gop, who is in our chat. He is now an assistant producer on the Patreon. So.
Oh, look at that!
Thank you, buddy. I'm gonna send you a note as soon as I get out of here, doing that. But thank you. Thank you. Absolutely.
Welcome to the fold. And now
Welcome
we
to
will
the
be
fold, Mike.
able to chat with you inside the Discords. It's going to be a neat welcome there. Is that MX2 maybe inside? Every now
Yeah.
and then people use different. Well, MX2 is in here, so that's kind of cool.
I don't know. Everyone uses slightly different names, and that's the internet.
Yeah.
How it be. This was cinematic back in the day. But yeah, every Patreon subscriber makes it a huge difference in watching the number, making the stonks go up.
Yep. And
is a
getting to
big old
share
deal.
your content in here. Several of us have found other good creators. We got the amazing Yahoo Silverman, who has a really incredible content when he's, joining us on there. And we already mentioned Medium and Summer of Mark and Bolty and Orzine still streams sometimes, right? I mean, some of these
It's been
different
a
people.
little bit. I haven't seen. He'll. Bolty will reel him
Yeah.
in from Guild Wars, but yeah,
Yeah.
he has been as often. But
Yeah, all
what
kinds
he would
of
do that.
different ones in there with that. It's been a neat perk of the chat is that we get to, message and see each other and learn about new things. And then, of course, if any of y'all want to host your own live stream, throw it out in there and we'll come see you.
Exactly. Our Discord is so fun. It's fun to. It's not like a good morning thing, like a crypto thing, where everyone's like, "Good morning, let's to the moon" and all that stuff. But it's cool to be in there and people are talking, and that's fun.
It is.
It's
and
great to
also-
feel that.
It's real chill. We've yet to find, and I don't want to jinx this, we've yet to find any jerks or people that just ruin the vibe. It's just
There was one jerk
everybody
one
comes in
time.
and hang in there. Every now and then they'll float through.
Yeah, right.
Sure. The exceptions to prove the rule, but
Of course, naturally, yeah. But yeah, no, you're right. Discord's chill, and it's nice for it to be of a size where people can just come and go, and it's nice. Oh, these freaking wolves! This freaking. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna load up the save from 17 years ago,
uh-oh.
and we're gonna see how that goes.
Okay.
Because I have a sword that is clear. Do I remember anything about what?
That'd be
What
interesting.
do I look like? I'm invisible.
So I'm gonna need to run and take care of a couple of things here, but I wanted to see kind of how we are. Yeah, these games in general, like 17 years is impressive, but I got to where right now, going back to one of our earlier questions about, gaming is if I pause some of these games for a week, I may never know what I was doing.
Yeah. You're that make. Wow, I discovered a lot. Yeah, so many of these games require so much overhead, and it gets overwhelming. Like one of the reasons why I liked Enter the Gungeon
Yeah.
is that I could click start, press Y, and I'm rolling and dodging and getting the hell out of there.
Yeah.
And that's super fun. Ooh, that is a jump.
Mhm.
Look at that is a jump. Criminy. I think I've already done all the gray. Oh, why am I? This is so strange. Like if you hopped into a Fallout 3 save at this point, it'd be so weird. I think I intentionally sent this save to the cloud just so that I would have it, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, for sure.
This is I'm gonna be honest. This is not a game I'm coming back to.
Yeah.
Which
I'm kind
feels
of like
like
that on a
bummer.
few of mine, Isn't that weird? Sometimes, like, it's one thing going forward. Like, I was playing Tokyo Ghostwire last week, and as I was playing it, I remember thinking, I'm probably done. I'm
Yeah.
probably not coming back. And I played for about 20, 30 more minutes, and I was like, all right, I'm good. I'm going to go ahead and just bail.
It's and it's like it's a bummer, but it's also like self-preservation because you're like, oh, am I gonna put another 5-10 hours into this to see if I really don't like it? Probably not.
Yeah.
Or maybe I do, and then that's 5-10 hours that's gone. So yeah, that's definitely That is definitely a thing, but I don't know. I still want to try Tokyo Ghostwired because it's
Yeah.
so different, and I don't mind repetitive urban environments.
No, that
To some,
environment was stellar. I mean, that was the number one thing all the reviewers agreed with was it was just amazing. However, I really felt by the time I was
that is
done
so
with it,
much
the quests were
blood.
just super the same, and the combat didn't change. The powers didn't feel greater. I like I don't like percentage powers. Like I don't want to give one of like makes your fireballs 13% stronger.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's little. I want it to be you can now shoot 3 instead of 2.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to describe that. But those powers, I found myself just using the same one all the time because you get wind, fire, water. I think I just
Mm-hmm.
use wind all the time because I could get more out of it. And I loved looking around and I loved seeing things, but at the end, very little of it was interactive.
Uh huh.
Like even in this one here, and it was kind of a Bethesda thing. You could jump on a table and all the goblets and plates would fall over.
Oh,
I
sure.
I love that. That's my favorite thing. Or if you did your Bose Roda, whatever your spell, throw a fireball inside, everything goes flying. To me, that's cool.
That seems neat, and it seems like neat to like I was talking about with the Assassin's Creed Odyssey thing of just like completing little bits of the map and then building out this constellation of things you've accomplished. Like I really
Yeah.
love that in Just Cause. Um, but I don't know if it sounds like that's gonna be really freaking messy,
Yeah.
or if it's gonna be really boring. Then that's not great. Why doesn't this? Why doesn't it let me? Can I not? Oh, I don't have enough magic. That's what I'm doing. Oh, it's rebuilding the magic. That's okay. That's why magic's good. Is you can can heal, and that's good.
Yeah. That was always good. And that was the weird thing too on Skyrim was like you earned more experience by doing the thing.
Yes.
So I would equip one of the magics that like I forget what it did. It drained you, and so I'd shoot fireballs until my health was low with one hand, and then I'd heal with the other. Shoot, 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 heal. Shoot, shoot, shoot. I'd just stand there sometimes and just do that, and level up, level up, level up. It felt kind of dumb, but
It's there were skills that you could really cheese
yeah.
to
And I
make
get it
that
because it's
happen.
hard. Yeah, how else do you justify? Hey, you're magically 10 better now. But
Right.
in some games where there's like Deus Ex, where there's plugins and neuro junk, the
Yeah.
techno jargon, that works. It's like, oh, you have now unlocked an upgrade to where
So
you
can
can
you?
jump 2 times higher.
Well, we were talking earlier about learning languages in a game. Like, can you imagine like you just go to a place and you just open and close a book over and over and over again, and it just
Right?
levels you up after? It's like, yeah, I already know it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
could. I spent 3 hours opening and closing the book. I actually just I 3D printed a robot to mash
Yeah.
the button over and over again, so that they would do that for me. Oh, we need to get higher.
All right, give me a second here.
I'm trying to scale this thing because the elevation here is what I'm at. Like I wanted to do the Tad Hauer thing of getting up onto going to the mountain that I see myself in. I actually went and got to the point where you could actually look out into the vast expanse that was Skyrim. And it's just like kind of it's not untextured, but it's like there's no detail, and it's like you can't go any further. Maybe we can still go there. Can we still go? I think we can. We might be able to go there. I'm taking like the really hard way, making it very difficult. I did contract I think it was vampirism in this once, and then you get damage from being out in the sunlight. And I think I rolled that thing back like, nope, I'm good. Alright, who's gonna start some stuff? Oh, you are. Oh, yeah, there's so much blood. Oh, that's so violent. See, it feels like I really got a lot of stuff done, but it was only like 40 hours or something is the game. Like 40, yeah, like 42 hours in this game. Barely. I did not put hardly any time into this game compared to Morrowind. In fact, I think I've put about as much time into this as I have in Skyrim.
Yeah. Some of those are like, I wish I had the exact amount of hours I played on the 360 before I got over to PC on Fallout, because I can easily double it and know, but I mean that was hundreds of hours total, and I really just wish I had the exact one.
See, I liked I like the Fallout setting, and then I just like messing with guns versus swords and medieval and stuff
Yeah.
like that. That was just much more appealing to me.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Fallout 3 came out just a year after this.
Yeah.
That it's like, whoa, okay. That's pretty nuts.
I don't know where they are on anything, but I just really want more of that decision making ability where what I do matters versus, hey, are you going to help? No. Yes. Yes. Begrudgingly. Yes. Sarcastically.
Yeah.
I want it to be more like anything where I don't have to just shoot everything too would be great. Can I speech check, or can I intimidate or something besides
Like the old
just
school
being able
games
to
did.
do it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's real. And then I understand people's complaints about that in like Fallout 4.
Yeah.
Totally get it. Totally get it.
Well, I don't remember how much more you're going to run on this, but I'm going to have to get a few things done. It looks like the weather's picking up, so I'm going to try to get out. And
Oh, sure. Yeah. I was
gotta-
going to try and run till 4. So, like, but I may just call it, and that's fine. Baldy, thank you so much for... Hang on, we'll switch the views. Let's bring it back. Bring it back.
Wrap it up.
There we go. Let's wrap it up.
real professional like.
Heck yeah. Get the heck out of here. I'm gonna turn friggin' whatever. But it's been great. 10,000 subscribers. Holy cow. I'm glad everyone who dropped in the chat. I didn't really get to watch it because that's what you were doing.
Yeah, I think we
but
got mostly everybody. We got a few new faces, plenty of old.
oh yeah, yeah. And hey, an extra Patreon subscriber out of it. That's pretty rad. So
That's very cool.
yeah,
And
so
it was funny too. You announced this a little while back. We knew 10 was coming, and now you're already at 10.3.
yeah.
Weird.
I was actually gonna make I kind of made a comment of that, but
Yeah.
yeah, because we hit it on Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, Tuesday morning. I thought it was gonna be like Wednesday or Thursday, and yeah, we're already 337 more than that. It's nuts. So the algorithmic attention right now has been insane, and it's out of my like. People understand, like, I didn't tell the algorithm to like start sending subs this way or give me attention.
Yeah.
It just happened. So when people say that it's just hard work or something, it's like, nah man, I'm like, it's just, I'm here. And it's deciding what it wants to do with that. So
It is, because again, in the Discord, you and a few others have shared those screenshots that shows like your views over time.
yeah.
And if it wasn't yours, it was somebody else recently. It was relatively even, and then bam, it just took off. And like you said earlier, sometimes you wonder, I don't know what it was that made that one go.
Yeah.
Glad it went. I just don't know what it was.
Or why it didn't go initially. And then weeks or months later, all of a sudden it's because this is like the second or third rise of second and a half rise of System Shock. Like, I didn't expect that to blow up, and then it did.
Yeah.
So like, that's I make the stuff, I make it as best I can, and then the algorithm, I'll switch out the titles, I'll switch out the thumbnails here from time to time, but like that's it. I'm out of there. I don't have any of those choices. So hitting 10,000, any milestone. I mentioned it to like high functioning medium. It's like I'm at a size now where I don't really have to do any promotion at all. I do just so that my friends know, and some of the people closest to me, but like almost all of my traffic is gonna be algorithmic, and whatever the YouTube algorithm steers towards it, and whatever I do in the grand scheme of things is going to be like a fraction of a percent. And that's something you don't really feel until you've got some scale or something big happens to you. So
What's the next goal for a stream? You thinking 25,000?
I'm thinking 25,000. I think 25, 50, and 100.
I like it.
And 100 is the one where we like bring out the whiskey, and because that's gonna.
Yes.
And I actually, obviously this is way too far in advance, but that's the one where I want to live stream. It wouldn't be a big thing, but I want to live stream the placard.
Oh yeah.
Because you hit the milestone, and then you get an email, then you have to go through a process, and then it's like I think it's a couple weeks before you actually get it. But that is like a huge deal to me.
That would be great. Yeah.
So
that would be worth documenting.
yeah, and now that we're already a tenth of the way there, so we just gotta add a 0 at the end. That's all we gotta do. Just add a 0 at the end. So
well, thank
all
you
right.
for everything on behalf of all your fans and the 10,000.3 that are out there. We sure appreciate it. We're thrilled to see what comes next and excited to see where the channel goes.
Absolutely, and thank you for being my co-hosts, and for being a fan and hanging out in the Discord, and we're just having a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see where things are going next.
To be a Nth fan.
Yay! Go the Nth review! Woo! All right, let's get out of here. Let's do it.